hit the live button. That's the crazy part. I didn't even try to hit it, but it hit it anyway. That's the crazy part. And I gotta remember the order of things. What's going on, Chad? We about to get it in today, guys. We about to get it in today. We about to get it in today, guys. This live won't be too long. Shout out to everybody that's coming in. Shout out to everybody that's coming in. I literally did not even try to hit the like button. I meant the live button. I did not try to hit the live button, but we're gonna go ahead and get into it anyway. We're gonna get into it anyway. All right. So before we actually get into a few things, right? Because we're gonna be talking about a lot of things right now. But before we get into that, make sure when you on your way in here, hit that like button on the way in here, because we're gonna go ahead and get started today. We're gonna go ahead and get started today. There's a lot of chaos going on. It's a lot of chaos going on. So we're gonna get into it, guys. All right. We're gonna get into it right here, right now. So before we get started on any video of any such, shout out to everybody on your way in. Make sure you hit that like button, guys. So anyway, Epstein files. House committee subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi. All right. So on Wednesday, let me find this real quick. We ain't going with the New York Post. They ain't never high factuality. I don't know what's going on with them. We ain't going with them. Shout out to everybody right now. We're gonna go ahead and go with the Associated Press. We're gonna go with the Associated Press and see what they had to say about this quick story right here. Right here, right here, right here. All right. House committee votes to subpoena Attorney General Bondi to answer questions over the Epstein files. What's up, Connor? What's going on, Glitch Trap? What's going on, man? Hit that like button on the way in here, guys. We got some stories for you guys today. Connor, how you doing, buddy? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing well, buddy. House committee votes to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi. All right, to answer questions over the Epstein files. Washington, the House Oversight Committee voted Wednesday to subpoena Attorney General Pam Bondi to answer questions over the Justice Department handling of the files regarding the Jeffrey Epstein's ST investigation. All right, I'm just watching the news. How are you doing? I'm doing well, Glitch. I can't complain. You are watching the news today. We got the news going right here, right now. We got the news going right here. We're going to try to get more people in here to get involved into the different storylines we have going on today. And literally, I wanted to start this live like 20 minutes ago, but I got a hiccup fest going on. I don't understand. 5 Republicans joined Democrats to support the subpoena proposed by GOP Republican Nancy Macy. All right, and a sign of continued frustrations among conservatives with the department reviews and release of a tranche of documents, related to the disgraced financier, Jeffrey Epstein. All right, the move amounted to a sharp rebuke of Bundy by Republicans who have been clamoring for information about Epstein's abuse of young girls and his interaction with rich and powerful people. The American people want answers on Epstein files, and so do we, Macy said of South Carolina. She said on a post on X. Shout out to everybody for hitting that like button. What's going on? What's popping, Sterling? Long time, man. Feel like we ain't talked in weeks. So Republican Nancy Macy of South Carolina talks to reporter at Capitol Hill in Washington Tuesday night. And she said that the American people want answers on the Epstein files. Okay. The Justice Department had no immediate comment on the subpoena. So we're about to see Pam Bondi once again in action. Aren't y'all ready for that? Aren't y'all ready to see Pam Bondi fumble over her words again? This is going to be funny. Very funny. It's going to be embarrassing. It's probably going to be embarrassing to watch. All right, the Epstein files remain a political headache for the Trump administration more than a year after Bundy sparked backlash by handing out binders of documents with no new revelations to conservative influencers at the White House. Then, after a month-long review, the Justice Department in July said it had concluded that no Epstein client list existed and there was no reason to make additional files public. All right. So, the House Democrat released photos of Trump, Clinton, and Andrew from the Epstein estate. Let me see if I can show y'all this photo really quick. Where did this photo just go? Come on, bring the photo up. I just had it. Really? All right. Damn, dude. The Associated Press is terrible, bro. So that's the photo that they released right there. That's the photo they released right there. Okay. He got the tea poured out. He said he out of it. Oh no. Got the tea poured out. That's going crazy. So House Democrat released photos of Trump. Shit. House photos released photos of Trump, Clinton, and Andrew from Epstein estate. Here's another photo right here that they released. And they redacted the young ladies' faces. They redacted the young ladies' faces. All right. House Democrat released a selection of photos from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein on Friday, including some of Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and the former Prince Andrews. All right. All right. That set off a fury that prompted Congress to pass legislation demanding that the Justice Department release the files. All right. Since the first release in December, critics have accused the administration of fumbling the rollout and withholding too many documents. Administration officials have said lawyers worked as quickly as possible to properly review, redact, and release millions of documents required under the law. For months, Attorney General Bondi has been instrumental in orchestrating the White House cover-up of the Epstein files and has failed to comply with our bipartisan subpoena for the release of the complete, unredacted files. All right, Representative Robert Garcia of California, the top Democrat on the committee, said in a statement, the American people deserve transparency, survivors deserve justice, and we are demanding answers. That's what Robert Garcia said. Bundy has defended the department's handling of the files and has accused Democrats of using the fury over the documents to distract from Donald Trump's successes, even though some of the most vocal criticism has come from members of the president's own party. Imagine that. Imagine that. All right. During a fury congressional hearing last month, Democrats excoriated. What's that word? Excoriated. Yeah. Bundy. All right. Over a hazardous redactions in the Epstein files that exposed intimate details about victims and included nude photographs. Bundy told lawmakers that the Justice Department had taken down files when it was made aware that they included victims' information, and said staff had tried to do their very best in the time frame allotted by the legislation mandating the release of the files. All right, the move to demand Bundy testimony comes a week after the Justice Department said it was looking into whether it had improperly withheld documents from the files after several news organizations reported that some records involving uncorroborated accusations made by a woman against Trump were not among those released to the public. All right, that announcement followed news reports saying that a massive amount of records released by the Justice Department did not include several summaries of the interview that the FBI conducted with an unidentified woman who came forward after the Epstein 2019 arrest and claimed to have been SA'd by both Donald Trump and Epstein when she was a minor in the 1980s. All right. Former President Bill Clinton and his wife, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, recently sat with lawmakers on the committee for their own depositions over the former Democratic president connection to Epstein from more than 2 decades ago. Bill Clinton told members of Congress on Friday that he did nothing wrong in his relationship with Epstein and saw no signs of Epstein SA abuse. All right. Hillary Clinton told lawmakers she had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes and did not recall even ever encountering Mr. Epstein at all. At all. All right. I ain't gonna lie. I watched Bill Clinton's deposition and it was a lot of I can't recall this, I can't recall that. You know, it was a lot of that. It just seemed too intentional, you know? It just seemed like he was trying to hide a few things. Definitely seemed that way. And I don't know. But I can say that he definitely admit that he had a relationship with Epstein. You know, he said he had a relationship with him. He flew on a plane with him. You know, he went to several places with him. Like, this is, I don't know if he's just being transparent because he's like, shit, they can't do shit to me at this point. Right? You know, but of course, as the sitting president right now, you're not going to say that you had a relationship with Epstein. That's why he's calling it a hoax, right? He's calling it a hoax. That's what the former president, the current president is doing right now. It's a hoax. Jeffrey Epstein, it's a hoax, right? Anyways, so that's what's happening right there, guys. With that first article right there with Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi has been subpoenaed again. So we will be seeing her again very soon. Very, very soon. We will be seeing Pam Bondi again. Let me see if I can find that video real quick. All right, so before we get into that, we're going to move on to this. All right. So New Global, I'm watching from where? Japan. Shout out to Japan. New Global U.S. 15% tariffs rate expected to kick in this week. I couldn't believe this when I read this article, guys. I couldn't believe it. But we're gonna see if that's what's really happening. Because you got to think about it, right? If the tariffs was already a problem in the first time around, right? And they got to have all these refunds that has to be allocated to these small businesses and to the American people, right? And this war this strike, this quote unquote war that we're participating in right now, that's going to be causing gas prices to rise, causing inflation to rise, everything, right? And he's still trying to implement the tariffs as well in the process. I mean, what's her name? Caroline, his speaker, she was right. I mean, Donald Trump can definitely walk and chew gum at the same time, but it could come at a cost, a bad cost. U.S. likely to raise global tariff rate to 15% this week, chat. This week. The U.S. will likely implement a 15% global tariff this week, the country's Treasury Secretary said, while countries elsewhere expanded trade links with each other. Scott Bassett added that U.S. levies would soon return to the levels they reached before the Supreme Court recently canceled last year's Liberation Day duties. All right. Several other countries have since sought to deepen their own links, eschewing commerce with the U.S. Brazil yesterday ratified a deal between Europe and Latin America, biggest trade bloc. The EU will reportedly expand a made in Europe preferential manufacturing zone to include Japan. Shout out to Japan. All right, the UK and dozens of other trusted partners. And Canada's premier is on a world tour to entice other middle powers to strengthen trade. Okay. So largest source of U.S. imports, we got the EU at 538 billion, Mexico at 448 billion, Canada at 323 billion, China at 266 billion, Vietnam 158 billion, Taiwan at 156 billion, Japan at 122 billion, South Korea at 105 billion, Switzerland 98 billion, India 88 billion. Numbers are a sum of January to October 2025. All right, so those are the largest source of imports in the United States. All right, those are the largest. So we're going to see how this actually going to work out. All right, so y'all can see the source right there. Y'all can see the source right there. You know I'm a source up a shut up. You know I'm a source up a shut up. So y'all can see that right there. All of the largest imports, the U.S. largest imports right there. Semaphore. All right. All right, so Israel or Iran conflict leaves African nations exposed. Iran conflicts leave, it says it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. That's facts. Iran conflict leave African nations exposed. The war in the Gulf has left African nations particularly exposed to surging energy prices, threats to remittances, and air travel chaos. Right? Multiple sub-Saharan African countries had seen credit rating upgrades in recent months thanks to improving fiscal situations, falling global interest rates, and accelerating economic growth. But most, even oil producers such as Nigeria, still imports refined fuel. leaving them vulnerable to energy price swings. And many are reliant on transfers from migrants living in the Gulf. In 2024, inbound remittances across the continent from abroad were roughly equivalent to foreign direct investments. And attacks on the Gulf hubs have hit African air travel, which remains small by global standards and relies on the region for connectivity elsewhere, which is crazy, right? Africa, y'all got to get it together, man. All right. What else is happening? It's a lot of stuff happening, right, man? It's a lot of news, like news overload, information overload. So Iraqi Kurdish militia in talks with Washington over Iran. Iran struck the Iraq-based headquarters in Kurdish opposition forces amid reported discussions between the fighters and the Washington over allying in the attack on Tehran. Kurds make up about the 10th of Iran's population, and the ethnic groups, other national factions in Iraq and Syria, have allied with the United States in prior decades to fight those country rulers. All right. Senior Kurdish leader denied having made any ground incursions into Iran thus far, but several outlets reported that Iranian Kurdish groups were in talks with Washington, which is arming the militia in order to help overthrow Iran's leadership. The strategy is a risky one, though, with a leading Iranian American historian telling the National that it was, all right, a recipe for a civil war. Man, they got a lot going on in the Gulf, man. They got a lot going on in the Gulf, right? The Persians against the Arabs. It's a lot going on in the Gulf, y'all. All right. All right, guys. Let's get into this story here. Let's get into this story right here. Hit that like button on the way in, chat. Hit that like button on the way in. All right, guys. So this is a quick story right here that came out. The Trump Justice Department. Trump Justice Department aims to limit ethic probes into its lawyers. Written by Reuters. On March 4th, 2026, the U.S. Justice Department submitted a proposed rule signed by who? Attorney General Pam Bondi, of course, that lets Attorney General review misconduct allegations and request state disciplinary authorities suspend investigations, opening for 30-day public comment starting Thursday. So let's get into this real quick. We're going to get off the paywall real quick. Get into the story. Get off the paywall. Get off the paywall. I'm not finna pay for that when I already pay for this. Got me messed up, bro. All right. So the Star Advisor, the U.S. Justice Department is seeking to constrain ethics investigations conducted at the state level into alleged misconduct by its lawyers, according to proposed rules submitted on Wednesday that would shield prosecutors pursuing President Donald Trump agenda. All right. The proposal would give the U.S. Attorney General the right to review misconduct allegations against current or former Justice Department attorneys and request that disciplinary authorities at the state level suspend their investigations. That would mean that the Attorney General, by dragging out such a review, could stall any such investigations, y'all. Any such investigations. Yes, but you can hold on. What? Anyways. So why would she be doing that? Right? Why would she be doing that? That's crazy. Several current and former Justice Department lawyers, including Ed Martin and Lizzie Holligan, face ethnic complaints for actions since Trump returned last year, while a Washington, D.C. ethics panel recommended disbarment for Jeffrey Clark. Under proposal, current or former Justice Department lawyers would be barred from assisting state investigations until the Attorney General reviews the end. And it would not allow DOJ to end the investigation, while state bar authorities would not have to defer to DOJ findings. The move could allow the Attorney General to delay state probes by extending internal reviews, and Justice Department officials say the proposal stalls state-level disciplinary inquiries targeting Trump's allies. Pam Bondi, you got a lot of questions that you're going to have to answer to, lady. She got a lot of questions that she's going to have to answer to, y'all. Real talk. Real talk. All right. When is that actually going to start? I got to figure out when that's actually going to start. Now, let's get into a video, chat. Let's get into a video right here, right now.
Operation Epic Fury. Iran on the...
And I don't know why my speaker cut off like that. Let's get into a video, y'all. Hit that like button on the way
in. Power on.
Here we go. Here we go.
Bluetooth. Bluetooth connected.
Let's get into it.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Under the leadership of President Donald J. Trump, the rogue Iranian terrorist regime is being absolutely crushed. 47 years of tolerating and enabling the world's leading state sponsor of terrorism are over. Iran's murderous terrorist leaders are paying for their crimes against America, and they are paying in blood. Since 1979, the terrorist Iranian regime has actively and intentionally facilitated the killings of Americans. They chant death to America and fund other radical terrorists who attack our country and are seeking to destroy Western civilization itself. These terrorists seized our embassy and took 66 Americans hostage in Tehran. They slaughtered 241 U.S. service members with a truck bombing in Beirut. They killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. And this is just a small fraction of their blood-soaked record. Prior leaders have been too weak and ineffective to address this threat. Some, like Barack Hussein Obama, even sent pallets of cash that ultimately financed this terrorist crusade against the United States and our people, while signing stupid and naive deals that put Iran on the path of developing nuclear bombs. After years of endless appeasement and empty statements from politicians on both sides of the political aisle in this town, President Trump is finally the man of action. President Trump.
Why do they always call him Barack Hussein Obama? Why do they always call his whole name out like that, y'all? Why do y'all think that is? Why do y'all think they always call his whole name out like that? Are they trying to be funny when they say that? Like they trying to be like, I don't know, Barack, and then they put emphasis on it, like Barack Hussein Obama. Like, why do they say his name like that? It just seems so like, I don't know. It's just like weird that they would just call his name out like that. His whole name. Just say Barack Obama, bro. Don't nobody say Donald, whatever his middle name is. They just say Donald Trump or Donald J. Trump, but they really put emphasis on that Hussein. Barack Hussein Obama. That's crazy that they do that. That's crazy that they do that, y'all. That's crazy. That's crazy. Anyway, let's get into it, man. I want to make sure this thing don't have a glare. That's all. I want to make sure this video don't have a glare. I think that's actually better right there. So that might be better, y'all. Let's get into it.
Trump is holding these monsters accountable and permanently extinguishing their nuclear ambitions. Future generations of Americans will look to this moment as the moment where the specter of a nuclear armed Iran ended. At the beginning of Operation Epic Fury, launched last weekend, President Trump laid out clear objectives to the American people on what the U.S. military seeks to accomplish through these major combat operations. Number one, destroy the regime's deadly ballistic missiles and completely raze their missile industry to the ground. Number two, annihilate the Iranian regime's navy. And so far, we have destroyed more than 20 Iranian ships, including their top submarine last night, using a torpedo for the first time since World War II. There is not a single Iranian ship underway in the Arabian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, or the Gulf of Oman. Number three, Operation Epic Fury will ensure the regime's terrorist proxies in the region can no longer destabilize the region or the free world and attack our armed forces. And thus far, Iran's proxies are hardly putting up a fight. Number four, this mission will guarantee that Iran can never obtain a nuclear weapon. It's safe to say that thus far, Operation Epic Fury has been a resounding success. American forces have struck more than 2,000 targets, destroying hundreds and hundreds of ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones. As the Department of War said this morning, we expect to have complete and total dominance over Iranian airspace in the coming hours, clearing the skies for our brave warriors to continue achieving these noble and long sought after objectives. There's been a lot of misreporting and intellectual dishonesty from the on why President Trump decided to launch this operation. So let me remind you, Operation Midnight Hammer, which took place last June, obliterated Iran's 3 major nuclear sites. Yet the terrorist Iranian regime has remained fully committed to rebuilding its nuclear program. How do we know this? Because Iran has pursued this path of war and violence despite President Trump dispatching 2 of his top and most trusted negotiators to engage in exhaustive and good faith negotiations to try and reach a deal. And the world knows this president's preference is always peace and diplomacy first. Look no further than the 8 additional global conflicts he has ended in the past year as proof. Unfortunately, the terrorist Iranian regime refused to negotiate in good faith.
And that still ain't been proven. She said, look at the 8 wars that he've already ended as proof. Bro, that still ain't been proven. There's no records out there, no credible records out there that proves that Donald Trump has ended 8 wars in his first 10 months. Like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Y'all can't be serious, bro.
They chose this path of violence and destruction, and they are reaping the consequences of their horrible decision. The regime did what they always have done. They lied, they delayed, they tried to string the United States of America along. They wanted to buy themselves time to continue building ballistic missiles and other deadly weaponry that could harm our U.S. personnel and troops in the region, and to continue aggressively pursuing their unacceptable nuclear ambitions. U.S. negotiators offered to lift crippling sanctions on Iran and even provide nuclear fuel to Iran at no cost to support a civil nuclear power program. They additionally had the opportunity to accept U.S. support as an investor in potential projects to develop peaceful nuclear energy together under a mutually agreed upon framework. Yet in response, Iran would have to forfeit their enrichment capacity once and for all. But Iran rejected. They accepted none of these generous and unprecedented offers by the United States. Simply put, they refused to say yes to peace. And their refusal made clear that their number one priority was building a nuclear weapon with which to threaten the United States of America. Again, the country they have been chanting death to for nearly 5 decades. Let me state this again clearly. Iran rejected the path of peace because the terrorists in charge of this regime wanted to build nuclear weapons to use against Americans and our allies. President Trump made the determination, a courageous determination and decision, that the path the United States was on with Iran had only one outcome: massive death and destruction at the hands of a nuclear-armed terroristic regime. That path of death and destruction and threats against the American people have ended with Operation Epic Fury. Operation Epic Fury has forged a new path that will better ensure the security of the United States and our people. The terrorists made a bet that President Trump would be like many of his predecessors, that he would just talk and he would refuse to enforce his clear red lines. But that has proven to be a catastrophic error in judgment. When President Trump makes a threat, and I have reiterated that threat many times from this podium to all of you over the past year, President Trump does not bluff. The president's words are backed up by the mightiest warriors in the world who possess the most sophisticated capabilities this world has ever known. 49 and counting of the most senior Iranian regime leaders, including the supreme leader, have already been wiped off the face of the earth. Make no mistake, killing these brutal terrorists is good for America and makes the world a much safer place. I want to also extend our prayers and condolences to the families of the 6 U.S. military service members who have been lost in Operation Epic Fury. These heroes represent the very best among us. They laid down their lives in defense of our country, and we will never forget their legacy or their sacrifice. As the president said, we grieve for these American patriots and their families as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. President Trump intends to attend the dignified transfer of these American heroes to stand in grief alongside their families. I understand the Department of War is working on scheduling this transfer, and we will provide updates at the appropriate time. Finally, the Trump administration is also doing everything within our power to protect Americans in harm's way. Since the launch of Operation Epic Fury, more than 17,500 Americans have safely returned home from the Middle East, with over 8,500 American citizens returning home to the United States just yesterday alone. If you are a U.S. citizen in the Middle East looking to return to the United States, the Secretary of State asks that you please register with the State Department at step.state.gov. The State Department will identify where you are and provide travel options directly to you. The administration is already rapidly chartering flights free of charge and booking commercial options, which we expect to become increasingly available as time goes on and the success of this mission further comes to fruition. I know the President and Secretary of State Rubio have been in touch as well with our allies in the region directly about this problem, making it clear that it is a priority of the United States of America to bring every American home. The Trump administration will not rest until every American is home safely and until the terrorist threat from Iran has been completely destroyed. With that, I'll take your questions. Eric, why don't you kick us off today? Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here. As you mentioned, Iran's regime.
And before we get into the questions, we're going to show y'all somebody who's actually in Dubai right now. A guy that I follow, I listen to his videos. He's literally in Dubai right now. He's stuck. It ain't no getting by. He just stuck, and he's in Dubai right now, literally. So let's get to this real quick. Let me just go here. He's in Dubai right now, and yeah, he's gonna be stuck there for a while. He will be stuck there for a while. Alrighty, let's get to it. Hit that like button, man.
The personal interest of I'm here. The truth.
Damn ass, bro.
Never sue the person who hit you after a car accident. I just got $100,000 for an accident I was in last.
Thank you for that question. Shout out to MindoFact47 writes, it's good to see that you were all right. I had a slightly off-topic question I've always wanted to ask. If you're aware of, I think the folks in Palestine are a good example. And then you juxtapose the plight of the Muslims in Palestine who are left unprotected by the Ummah, which is to say the billion-plus Muslims around the world. There are entire countries that alone have enough population to do something, like Indonesia and many others. And there are nuclear-armed Muslim countries like Pakistan. There are Muslim countries with effective militaries like Turkey. There are Muslim countries with tried and true militaries like Egypt. And all of them do nothing. And we observe the holy grail of Islam, Saudi Arabia, Mecca and Medina, the holy land that allows for foreign atheist infidel non-believers to bring the weapons of war onto the sacred land that is Saudi Arabia. So no Muslim should ask me questions about Islam. You should ask yourselves questions about Islam. And no one should be given dawah. No one should be trying to recruit anyone into the deen of Islam. You should be trying to get the people who claim that they're Muslims to actually behave as Muslims, to read the Quran and live out. It's in their financial interest. And that's a good way to discover if and why someone might lie. Marquette, what do you mean it's in their financial interest? Dubai is a place that has atrocious weather. Right now, this is the best weather you'll ever see in Dubai during this current time. These months, this is the best weather you'll ever see. Otherwise, the weather is completely unbearable, which means that no one is going to come to this part of the world for funsies unless there is all of this fancy stuff you have here. The tallest building in the world, the only 7-star hotel in the world, this and that superlative, which is to say, they created tax incentives, so you don't have to pay any income tax, which isn't going to help Americans a ton because the United States government is still going to harass you for income tax, even on income made abroad. But moreover, there's no income tax. As far as I used to know, there was favorable corporate tax. Some of that has changed. And in addition, they allow for third world folks to get in here as long as they're willing to work, which means that you have low labor costs. So if you're a wealthy person, be you from the West or otherwise, you can hire someone from Philippines, India, in some cases, Africa. Leave because the airspace has been closed. And the airspace has been closed due to a war that is going on. This is a war that was provoked by the United States of America and Israel. Hopefully that microphone is able to catch up with us. And once folks come on, if you'd be kind enough to confirm that you can hear through this microphone. But anyways, I'm actually packing up right now because I have to leave this hotel. I've extended my stay and I've paid cash to extend my stay. There's a lot of propaganda going around. And before I get too deep into this conversation, I'd like to just let everyone know that if I do disappear, it'll be from one of two. It'll either be because one of those hypersonic missiles have gotten through and I just happen to be located in an unfortunate location, or because I have been kidnapped and arrested. And the reason that would happen is due to the laws governing speech. There is no free speech here. There is not even the illusion of free speech here, which is fine. I think that the government here is entitled to run this nation as they choose. But the only reason that I'm coming into conflict with their laws against free speech is because there are too many lies going on. And frankly, nature is going to dictate what you do, nature, training, and conditioning. And the fact of the matter is that my nature is to speak up against truth and to take action against wickedness. It is my wiring, and I just frankly cannot and will not do anything else. I have been warned about the laws here and prohibitions against speaking truth as it relates to the government and the ongoing war, and as well the strikes that are occurring. And so I'm aware, and I'm going to continue doing what I'm going to do, which is to speak the truth and fight for the truth. That being said, I'm packing up to leave this hotel, and I want to note that there has been price gouging occurring, which is to say that, and let me know if this makes sense to you. I'm in business. I've been in many businesses. I've traveled, as you guys know, extensively.
All right, chat. He's in Dubai. All right. He said there's price gouging going on to extend his stay, stuff like that, and they charge him double, triple the prices. So And he also said that the government said that they would cover the cost of the hotels for all of the citizens that got stuck there, and they didn't do it. And so he said that the hotel was price gouging and saying that this is a business. Even though the government said this, the hotel was like, no, we're not doing that. So I didn't want to, he can get really long-winded on certain things, so I didn't want to keep going on that. But you got it. He's stuck over there right now. He's still stuck over there anyway, so. So, Trump, all right, here we go. Report came out that Trump considers firing who? DHS Secretary. They've been trying to get her fired for a while, guys. They've been trying to get her fired. Everybody been screaming, fire Pam Bondi, fire Kristi Noem. Well, Trump is considering firing DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. Let's get into the reports, y'all. Let's get into the reports, guys. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Oh, man. Look like your girl about to get up out of here, y'all. Look like your girl is about to get up out of here. That's your girl right there. South Dakota. Trump considers firing DHS Secretary Noem. Sources say the president has made no decision, but he has told lawmakers that he is unhappy with her testimony this week before House and Senate committees. All right. So, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee on where? March the 3rd. All right. Bro, come on, bro. President Donald Trump, already frustrated with Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, was incensed by her performance this week during a congressional hearing and is considering firing her. Firing Kristi Noem. Lawmakers and people familiar with the discussions tell NBC News. Trump has been speaking this week with Republican lawmakers about his displeasure with Noem and has made clear in those conversations that he is considering replacing her. According to 2 Republican lawmakers, a person familiar with White House thinking, and 3 people familiar with President private discussions. White House officials have already discussed names of potential replacement for Noem, including Republican Senator Mark Wayne Mullen of Oklahoma and Steve Daines of Montana. He don't need to get anybody out of Montana. If you know Jeremy Carl, he don't need to get anybody out of Montana. They're just going to be more racist and more nasty than Kristi Noem. So I hope he ain't considering anybody out of Montana. Stay away from Montana. All right? Nasty people. According to 2 of the people familiar with the discussions, no decision has been made by the president, the sources say, but he has told lawmakers that he is unhappy with Kristi Noem's testimony this week before the House and Senate committee. Noem has been at the forefront of Trump's signature policy agenda, the deportation of immigrants, the restricting of immigrants, and the clamping down of the U.S.-Mexico border. Her outsers would mark the first time a cabinet secretary has exited the Trump second term. All right? Somebody just got timed out for 60 seconds. Oh, it's all good. All right? Let's see why the president is unhappy with Kristi Noem. Let's see right here, chat.
So some pretty intense moments today over on the Hill with the Homeland Security Secretary facing questions about her department, which, remember, is shut down right now, has been for a couple of weeks. With Kristi Noem making her first congressional appearance since 2 people were killed by the feds in Minnesota in January. At the time, she called them domestic terrorists, which she was pressed on today.
Yes, she did.
And she even took some heat from senators inside the president's own party. So this is from Republicans here. Listen to this.
Quality matters, not quantity, quality. And what we've seen is a disaster. Under your leadership, Ms. Noem, a disaster. What we've seen is innocent people getting detained that turn out are American citizens.
Spicy. Julia Ainsley has been all over the story. Spicy from somebody who's not running for re-election, Senator Tom Tillis from North Carolina on the Republican side, who also laid into Kristi Noem about this anecdote she shared, and it sort of got widely picked up about the time she shot a puppy, Cricket. Yeah, that's right. He talked about how it was 14 months old, and that in that same hour, she also killed a goat. That part was new to me. Basically, Tillis has been incredibly outspoken and critical of Noam. We also heard from another Republican, though, today who joined that rank, and that was Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, who had a lot of questions about the way Noam is running the department and how she is awarding contracts and how she responded to those fatal shootings in Minneapolis. But an exchange that I really want to highlight is one between her and the ranking member, Democratic Senator Dick Durbin, where he's pressing her on why she called Preti a domestic terrorist before she had more information about the shooting. And as we now know, he did not point his gun at the officers. Take a listen to this exchange.
How did you think that calling them domestic terrorists at that scene was somehow going to calm the situation?
You know, Senator, we are working in those situations where there's a tragic loss of life and that there is something that our agents are involved in, that we continue to deliver information.
Is it so hard to say you were wrong?
We continue, as these investigations continue to go, we will provide, I absolutely strive to provide factual information, and we'll continue to do that.
And when you fail, do you admit it publicly?
Absolutely. We always know that there's room for improvement.
And another thing that came up today, Hallie, that I want to draw your attention to is actually questions about some reporting we first broke here at NBC News. There are some pictures that we obtained of a $70 million jet that ICE wants to purchase that would be used both for Noam's travel and, they say, for deportations. They have some questions about how she would use this plane for deportation. She said they would remove the bedroom. Of course, we still have questions about how they would use the kitchen, the bar, the full screen TVs. All of this, Hallie, comes amid a major DHS shutdown and questions about Noam's leadership as the agency and the administration pivots on how they're handling deportations.
News lives in the now. There's still a danger.
We are buckled in here on the ground.
News for the generation of now is NBC News Now. Live news streaming free.
That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. All right, so Trump considered firing Kristi Noem. What's up, JC? What's up, JC? How you doing, brother? All right.
Trump considers firing Kristi Noem after train wreck hearings. By Hafez Rashid.
President Trump may be fed up with the Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. All right. Punchbowl News report that the president is asking his Republican allies in Congress whether he should fire Noem following her contentious hearing on Capitol Hill this week, including one where she said the president approved a controversial government ad campaign starring herself. I did see that. I saw when she said that. I watched that live. All right. On Tuesday, Kristi Noem was asked by the Republican Senator John Kennedy about the $220 million ad campaign, which he said seemed to boost her national profile. All right. The president, Kristi Noem goes on to say, the president approved ahead of time spending $220 million running TV ads across the country in which you are featured prominently. Kennedy asked Noem during the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. She replied, yes. All right. And said that it was legally clear. All right. He also goes on to ask her, did the president know you were going to do this? Kennedy followed up. Kristi Noem replied, yes, and affirmed her answer when Kennedy seemed skeptical. All right. There were effective in your name recognition, Kennedy said, or they were effective in your name recognition, Kennedy said. To me, it puts the president in a terribly awkward spot. This reportedly irked the president enough to question Kristi Noem's future in the administration. All right. The contract for the campaign, which was filmed at Mount Rushmore, went to a company only 8 days old and run by Ben Yahoo, the husband of former DHS spokesperson Tricia McLaughlin. Michael Yahoo, a Yahoo firm, received over $226,000 despite the company having no website, no experience, and quiet contracts. On top of that, during the House Judiciary Committee hearing on Wednesday, what's up, OG? Kristi Noem was confronted about her rumored affair with her top aide, Corey Lewandowski. Lewandowski, and she lashed out at the Representative Sidney Kamlager over it. I'm shocked that we're going down and peddling tabloids garbage in this hearing, said Kristi Noem, without denying the rumors. She did not deny the rumors at all. All right, the affair between Noem and Lewandowski, who are married to other people, is considered the worst kept secret in Washington, D.C. But if Trump decides that Noem many misdeeds at DHS and personal slights to him have become too much to deal with, the affair will be the least of her problems. All right. So Donald Trump right now is considering, right? It's up in the air. He is considering firing Kristi Noem. All right. I thought it would be Pam Bondi first, to be honest with y'all. I thought Pam Bondi would be out the door first, right? Just based on the strength of her first hearing, committee hearing. But Kristi Noem is on the way out the door, guys. They blowing that tariff money fast. They blowing it fast and blaming it on the president. Blaming it on the president. He ain't going to go for that. He is not going to go for that, guys. He is not going to go for that. All right, so also we got another story right here. What's up, everybody? Elvis Brown, Tree Roji. How everybody doing? Trader Ray. All right, there's a veteran whose arm was broken while protesting Iran war faces charges. So you guys, I don't know if you saw the video, but I saw the video on Instagram yesterday. There was a veteran that was arrested at the, where was he? Brian McGinnis had his arm broken after Capitol Police and a Republican senator attacked him. So that's how they're framing that article this way, but I didn't see it that way. All right. All right. So the firefighter and the Marine veteran who was dragged out of Wednesday's Senate war power resolution vote for yelling, "No one wants to fight for Israel. No one wants to fight for Israel. No one wants to fight for Israel," is now facing criminal charges. He is now facing criminal charges for protesting. All right. Brian McGinnis in full uniform can be seen on video being grabbed by Republican Senator Tim Sheehy and 3 police officers. They lift him up in the doorway while he screams his protest with his hand still in the doorway. His arm was in the doorway. He was trying to stop them from pulling him out of the courthouse. Then a snap can be heard. Literally, if you see the video, you listen to it, you can just hear when his arm snapped. It said just like that, as McGinnis breaks his arm. All right. Let's see if we can get into the video. Let's see if we can get into the video right here. They broke his arm. They definitely broke his arm, for sure. Oh, come on! Bring me the video already! They eventually put McGinnis down. The senator broke his hand. A sitting U.S. senator just broke the hand of a Marine. Control your Senate, a bystander can be heard yelling. McGinnis later confirmed his arm was broken. Now, even with his injuries, he still has been criminally charged with assault on a police officer and resisting arrest. The GoFundMe in his name has already raised almost $50,000, chat. $48,000. McGinnis is also apparently a Green Party candidate for Senate in North Carolina. So, Capitol Police were attempting to remove and unhinged protesters from the Armed Services hearing. He was fighting back. I decided to help out and de-escalate the situation. Sheehy later wrote on X, "This gentleman came to the Capitol looking for confrontation, and he got one. I hope he gets the help he needs without causing further violence. In no way did Sheely de-escalate the situation when he ran over and grabbed onto McGinnis." All right. Many were quick to call out the symbolic irony of the event, the war on Iran, which the U.S. even admitted was at the behest of Israel, at least somewhat. is massively unpopular. A veteran making that statement in the halls of the Senate and being seriously injured for it only underscores the administration's blind commitment to waging war. All right. All right. Republicans claim to care about our troops, but the moment a veteran speaks out against Israel, they treat him worse than they treat actual criminals. A large conservative X account wrote. This is very, very ugly, and no U.S. senator needs to inject himself into this situation for the safety of everyone, including himself. Independent Veterans for America founder Paul Reckoff wrote on X, just unnecessary and terrible to watch. This is what an America falling apart looks like. What's up, Mama Duck? How you doing? Even the contemptible alt-right commentator Nick Fuentes chimed into this situation. This is just a picture of America right now, which you have a U.S. Marine. These are the people actually prosecuting the war, actually fighting the war. And they're being sent out now into yet another ridiculous regime change war in the Middle East for Israel. And that's what the guys say. He says, look, we don't want to die for Israel. We do not want a guy be unalive for Israel. Right? That's what the Marine was protesting literally at the Senate hearing. Right? And he's being charged criminally right now. All right. Fuentes said, and look at the way that he's being treated, literally dragged out of the chamber by cops. A U.S. senator jumps into the action. They smashed his hand in the door. That's the picture of America. That Marine is all of us. That Marine is all of us. Literally. I don't know what's gotten into Nick Fuentes lately, but he's been speaking actually speaking some facts lately. He's been speaking some facts. Tom, what's up, Tom? I'm pretty good and as good as I can be right now. All going on in the world. It's a lot going on, y'all. It's a lot going on. Mama Duck, I'm glad you're doing well, Mama Duck. Good to see you as always. Tom, Don, with that talk, more wisdom and knowing talk. What's up, Tom? They broke his arm. Yep, they definitely broke his arm. Don't care. I want cheap oil and Iran needs to McDonald capitalism. Boy, you crazy. All right, so we just, look, guys, for y'all just tuning in, Donald Trump is considering firing Kristi Noem, okay, DHS Secretary. He is considering firing Kristi Noem, right? After that hearing that she just did, he didn't like how she accused him of allowing her to spend $220 million on flights of the American taxpayers' money. So, yeah, she might be on her way out the door. Now, I thought that Pam Bondi would be the first one. I thought that Pam Bondi would be the first one out the door. Literally, I did. But looks like Kristi Noem might be the first one to go. Like she might be the first one to go. Let's see if we can find some clips on that. Oh, man. Let's see if we can find some clips on that real quick. Where's that video at? Kristi Noem is out. Uh-oh.
Request from the jump.
Uh-oh. Hit that like button on the way in, guys.
Never sue the person who hit you after a car accident. I just got $100,000 for an accident I was in last.
Somebody goes back in.
Yeah, let me show that video real quick. That U.S. Marine veteran real quick. Marine veteran breaks arm. Marine veterans. Where is that video? I don't think a lot of y'all seen that. Brian McGinnis. Here it is. Here it is right here. We'll get into that real quick. It's better on Instagram, though. I just don't want to show it on Instagram. Here it is, man.
Please stand up as a Marine.
In Washington, D.C. today.
Please stand up as a Marine.
In Washington, D.C. today, the balance of power between the White House and Congress took center stage. The U.S. Senate voted 53-47 to block a bipartisan resolution aimed at limiting President Donald Trump's war powers regarding military strikes against Iran. The vote, which largely fell along party lines, prevents the resolution from advancing, effectively giving the president backing to continue operations against Tehran without specific congressional authorization for this conflict.
A Marine veteran.
The debate was fierce. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer argued that President Trump is plunging America into an unwanted war, stating, quote, "The American people deserve a say." In response, Republican Senator James Risch defended the president's actions, citing Article 2 of the Constitution, which he argues gives the commander-in-chief the duty to protect the nation. However, Senator Raphael Warnock countered that while presidents have engaged in military operations, the declaration of war belongs solely to Congress, adding,
why are they,
"To me, this looks like a..."
Why are they talking over the lady, bro? Why are y'all showing the video and talking over the lady? I don't understand. That's so stupid. Let me find another video real quick. Yeah, that's about to piss me off. Just talking over the damn lady. We trying to hear what they talking about. What the helly?
Please.
Damn, that's crazy. Let's get into the video right here, guys. Damn.
Please stand up as a Marine and stand up for America. No one wants to fight for Israel.
Why are you here? Why are you getting arrested?
Free Palestine, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. Palestine will be free.
We just witnessed a Marine veteran interrupting the hearing, and they broke his arm.
Why did he interfere?
Because there is a war in Iran, and our military brothers and sisters are going to die for Israel, and we are here to say no. We do not support Israel. We do not want to die for Israel. Stop the war in Iran right now.
And what did they do to him?
They pulled him out, got his arm trapped in a door, broke his arm, tackled him to the ground. It was a very, very intense situation.
America does not want to fight this war in Iran, and the soldiers don't, right, Brian?
No, they don't. They just don't want to send their sons and daughters to fight in Iran.
More like just so you don't trip off.
Please stand up as a Marine. Stand up for America.
Y'all see what's going on, man.
No one.
Y'all see what's going on. So Kristi Noem's about to be fired. Donald Trump, the apprentice in real life, you're fired. Facts. We all know that the president can do whatever is best for the country. NATO, Iran was a threat. Iran was not a threat. And if somebody can pull up a threat that Iran made to America or anyone else, please let me know. How the F he managed to still keep that calm after the arrest and a broken arm is wild. That is a true hero. That's facts. That's facts. That's facts. But yeah, you're right. We already know it's about the oil, and we about to show y'all right here that it's about the oil, right? It's about controlling the Strait of Hormuz. That's what it's really about, right? They don't want the Iranians to have that much control over the pathway of oil. So, you know, but we're going to show y'all what it's really about right here. Let me go here real quick. I'm just going to read y'all something real quick. So, one of these guys put out, God dog, man, all these freaking things. All right. So, another veteran put out an Instagram post. Another veteran, right? We just saw a veteran that just protested this whole ordeal. Here's another veteran right here. Maja Porter, all right, U.S. Navy veteran, says, "I do not support this war. Yesterday, I broke down why Iran is fighting the way they are. Today, I want to show you the weapons, the math, and some of the maps." All right, because when you put all three together, the picture Washington isn't showing you comes into focus. All right. So for everything you think you know about Iran's military, most people picture outdated jets, old tanks, and a pushover, right? That's not what I'm looking at as a veteran. Iran has over 3,000 ballistic missiles, fair to say less now, the largest arsenal in the entire Middle East. All right, faster, more accurate, and harder to stop than most Americans realize. Okay. But the missiles aren't even the scary part. It's the drones. This is what a Navy veteran put out, right, about Iran. All right. Iran Shahed drones cost them roughly $20,000 to $35,000 to build. All right. You know what it costs for the U.S. to shoot one down? Between $500,000 or $500,000 to $4 million. All right, per drone. And they have between 80,000 and 100,000 drones. So you do the math. All right, you do the math. See if I can get this thing pictured up right here. See if I can get this thing pictured up right here, right here, right here, right here. Show y'all that real quick. I'll just show y'all that real quick. All right. So yes, anybody that should be treated with respect and dignity, people who fought in the military, facts. But we take care of people on EGP card, EGP participate better than the military. That's facts. That's facts. It's always about the oil, right? You already know. You already know. All right. Read that again. They spend $35,000. The U.S. spend. So let's see. Iran drones cost them between roughly $20,000 to $35,000 to build, right? To build their drones. So Iran spent $35,000 to build their drones. The U.S. spend up to $4 million just to take them down, each per drone. All right. And it's estimated that Iran has between 80 to 100,000 of these drones. All right. And standard military practice means we often fire 2 interceptors at a single drone to make sure it goes down. One analyst at the Stimson Center said it plainly. We are using these interceptors faster than we can make them. All right. And it gets worse. During just 12 days of fighting last June, the U.S. fired roughly 150 THAAD interceptors defending Israel alone. Each one costs $12 to $15 million. Each one takes years to replace. A Heritage Foundation report from January 2026 warned our high-end interceptors could be exhausted within days of sustained combat. We are now in day 4 or day 5 now. We're in day 5 now. All right. Iran knows exactly what they're doing. This isn't random. This is a financial strategy. All right. Flood the skies with cheap drones alongside ballistic missiles at the same time, which forces our defense to track threats at different speeds and altitudes simultaneously. All right. Drain our stockpile, run out the clock. They watched Russia do this to Ukraine. Then they took notes. They took notes. All right. Iran just destroyed $1 billion U.S. missile radar system in Qatar. Really? Like, just happened? Now, pull back and look at the map. Iran has location, right? This is another advantage. Iran has the location. And in warfare, sometimes where you are matters more than what you have. All right. Right next to Iran sits a strip of water 21 miles wide. All right. The Strait of Hormuz. 20% of the world's entire oil supply moves through those 21 miles every single day. All right. And that's just the water. Now look at the land. More than half of Iran is mountains. The Zagros Mountains run the entire western length of the country, peaks hitting 14,000 feet in altitude. The Alborz range seals off the north. Narrow passes, brutal terrain, nearly impossible to move armor through. Any ground invasion of Iran would be a logistical nightmare that makes Afghanistan look simple. All right, and here's the part that really matters. Iran didn't just build near those mountains. They built inside the mountains. Missile cities carved 500 meters deep into the rocks, tunnel networks running for miles, thousands of missiles sitting underground right now that airstrikes alone cannot reach. One Iranian general put it this way: if the enemies make a mistake, missile bases will erupt like a volcano from the depths of the earth. So Iran controlled the water and those mountains. Islands inside the strait, coastal missiles pointed at the shipping lanes, fast attack boats ready, naval mines stockpiled. On March 2nd, they called it and officially declared the strait closed. All right. So Hapag-Lloyd, yep, those shipping companies, major shipping companies stopped moving immediately. Oil prices jumped 13% overnight. Analysts warning $150 a barrel if it holds. Higher gas prices. Higher gas prices. So let's make this personal for a second. $150 a barrel of oil means $6 to $7 to $8 gas at your pumps. Grocery costs more, shipping costs more, everything that moves on a truck costs more. Iran doesn't have to drop a single bomb on America's soil to hurt everyday Americans. They just have to keep the strait closed. That's it. Russia is getting rich now after the strait is shut down. Russia get how so? How Russia getting richer? You know those who has that too, dumb? Haiti has the same thing. You can see Russia from the Haiti hills that they have there. It's not a coincidence why that country people is always turned away. Yes, oil went up. It's at $80 a barrel today. It ain't going up. China gets 25% of its energy through the strait. Japan imports 90% of its crude through it. And the moment those lanes close, this stopped being just America's problem. The entire globe economy is sitting inside a 21-mile gap and a mountain range right now. Right now. Right now. So we got the shipment through the Strait of Hormuz, 30% of global seaborne oil trade, 20% of global trade. Saudi Arabia is the largest exporter of oil through the strait, while Qatar leads in LNG exports. Volume transported through the strait in 2024, oil and petroleum products, 20.3 million barrels in 2024. It's rough, man. Put it all together and tell me what you see. Mountains that swallow armies, water that moves the market, tunnels that survive airstrikes, drones that bankrupt defense systems. They didn't stumble into this fight. They built it, brick by brick, 40 years. And we walked right into it anyway. We sent our soldiers right into what they did anyway. All right.
Women homeowners, listen.
Get into a video, guys.
If you need to sell your house as is, but life already.
Let's get into a video.
And their currency. The Iranians cannot sell their oil freely. The Iranians cannot access the markets freely. They cannot borrow, and their currency has been devalued in a manner that has never been seen in many parts of the world. And that has made the people begin to rise up. And they are rising up on a number of issues. They are saying we want greater freedoms. They are saying the economy is so bad that we want to see improvement. But the reality is that the economy cannot improve. And one can see that in the very reconciliatory messages from both the spiritual leader or the Ali Khamenei and President Massoud. The demonstrations have been going on for almost 3 weeks, but they are not coming out with violent language, if you may. And one of the things that they are now doing is to externalize the problem. They are saying, we know we have domestic problems, but we can see the hand of the United States of America. We can see the hand of Israel. And as regards Israel, you remember in the month of June, the year 2025, there was the 12-day war. And that war, in my view, has never been concluded. There was a very loose agreement, which was midwifed by the United States of America, and there is an armistice of sorts. But technically, Iran and Israel are at war. There is a younger population of Iranians who think that their country should be administered differently. There are economic problems. The remnants of the Pahlavi regime, and we are being told that one of the sons of Mohammad Reza Pahlavi is actually one of the prime movers of the demonstrations that are taking place in Iran now. Whether true or not, we do not know. We are being told that the Israelis are also somehow exercising some control via an invisible hand. We are told that the Americans are also present, and in the case of the Americans, they cannot escape indictment because their President Trump is saying, you touch any of the demonstrators and we are locked and ready to bomb you. So that is the situation in which Iran finds herself. And as we speak now, they are on high military alert. I know many commentators take the view that what happened in Caracas cannot happen in Tehran. But even if it is not an exact replica of what happened in Caracas, the Americans are capable of entering into that space and creating a vacuum, therefore. And if a vacuum is created, then what will ensue is chaos, and we don't have to look far. When Saddam Hussein was eliminated in Iraq, you've never seen Iraq go back to factory setting, if one may use that metaphor. So Iran finds herself in a very difficult situation because of a combination of legitimate domestic problems, a constitutional crisis, and external problems, which all conjoined only spell one word: danger. You know, whenever you see a country going through a crisis of the kind that we see in Iran, it means that institutions are no longer responding to the needs of the people. So as it is now, there is appetite for change. For some people, there's even nostalgia for the old regime, which is very human. And all these factors then legitimize and justify the kind of calls that we see from the United States of America that this is a tired administration. And of course, the word that the United States of America and Western Europe always use is democracy, a one-size-fits-all Eurocentric, Americocentric model of governance. And the younger generation are responding to this rhetoric. And I hear some of them saying, what we want is change. We'll deal with what change brings later. A dangerous thing to say, because history is consistent in telling us that when you make change and that change is not orderly, restoring order can take time. But that is an intellectual debate which does not respond with realpolitik. Realpolitik is that the Americans would want to see a totally different administration in Tehran. The Israelis would want to see a totally different administration in Tehran, and for specific reason. During the 12-day war, for the first time in an impactful way, a missile landed in Tel Aviv from Tehran. Missiles supposedly supplied from Tehran emanated from Yemen. So in the context of geopolitics, Israel sees Iran as the only viable threat, which is so close to nuclear capability, and that if you neutralize this regime, then you kill that possibility. And remember that the Americans also bombed some of the facilities, and they think that this is an unfinished business. So when they talk about regime change, they also want to finish the unfinished business. And from where I sit, that unfinished business started in 1979 with the humiliation of the United States of America, and it must be concluded. Iran, the Ayatollahs must be humiliated. American administration, the presidents notwithstanding, has a long memory. And they remember 1979.
They do.
You know, when
they do remember 1979, and that's why we're gonna get into it right here. They definitely remember 1979. They remember, and they got a long history of this, right? They remember what happened. They don't forget. They don't forget. So let's get into what happened in 1979. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Find that video, chat. Y'all give me one moment, man. Hit that like button on the way in, man. What's up, Lou Hawk? Lou Hawk in the building. What's going on, Lou? Lou, what's up, Lou? Let's get into it.
Most of them say it's impossible to break into venture capital, private equity, or investment banking. But do you really?
The relationship between the US and Iran hasn't always sounded like this.
An axis of evil.
Unprecedented, crippling sanctions on Iran.
Iran has been a very dangerous player. They're a nation of terror.
انشاءالله به توفیق الهی دشمن رو به زانو در خواهیم آورد.
The US and Iran may not have agreed on much for decades, but they used to be allies.
Iran, because of the great leadership of the Shah, is an island of stability in one of the more troubled areas of the world.
So how did the relationship between the two become so strained? And how does that link to what's happening in Iran today? Oil was discovered in southwestern Iran at the start of the 20th century. This redefined the role of the country on the global stage and began a complex journey with the West, and especially the United States. A British company that would later become BP set up Iran's oil industry, and business was good. But over time, there were growing calls from Iranians for more control.
The problem was there was so much wealth to be gained from the oil that was being extracted that then they could see all of that money just leaving the country. And so it's that history of feeling that this is oil on Iranian territory under their ground, and they're not getting any of the benefit from it.
One of the strongest voices was Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. He came to power promising to nationalize Iran's oil, which he did in 1951. As a result, Britain, supported by America, boycotted Iranian oil, causing exports to all but collapse over the next 2 years. Then, in 1953, American and British intelligence agencies orchestrated a coup to push him out.
So America saw Mossadegh as being someone who would develop ties between Iran and Russia. So basically, it was an opportunity that then allowed American oil companies to get a foothold in the Iranian market.
The coup cemented control of the Western-backed Shah, or King of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. For the next 26 years, with support from the US, the Shah built infrastructure, started land reforms, improved education, and gave women the vote.
These very fast-paced social changes that are happening alongside this influx of enormous amounts of oil wealth into the country. And we see very fast transformations within society.
The reforms boosted the economy, but not everyone benefited equally. And some religious leaders felt they were a threat to Islamic values. Then, the Shah increased political control over society.
In Iran, under Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi, becomes much stronger, and he has American support to train up his secret police. to interrogate people and to try and stamp out any possible areas of opposition.
The Shah's feared secret police, his opulent lifestyle, and pro-Western policies sparked riots, strikes, and mass protests from across Iranian society. And all this led to the Iranian Revolution in 1979, which changed the country completely. The religious leader Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini returned from exile and established an Islamic republic. This transformed not only Iran, but how it saw the world.
Ayatollah.
پیروزیمون وقتی است که دست این اجانب از مملکتمون کوتاه شود.
The shift from friends to enemies starts in 1979, partly just because of where the revolution ended up going under the leadership of Khomeini, whose rhetoric was anti-American.
In November 1979, a group of students who said they were angry about America's treatment of Iran stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and held dozens of Americans hostage inside for more than a year.
When the hostage crisis happens, the relationship fundamentally changes. Iran was no longer a friend and overnight becomes an enemy.
In response, the U.S. applied economic sanctions for the first time. They banned all trade with Iran, including oil. Before the hostage crisis ended, Iraq invaded Iran. The leader of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, felt threatened by Iran's Islamic Republic and thought the new regime was weak and could be quickly defeated. But the war lasted 8 years and more than 500,000 people died. Though officially neutral, the US secretly backed Iraq, providing financial aid, weapons, and intelligence. Towards the end of this war, on July 3rd, 1988, the US shot down an Iranian civilian plane that it says it mistook for a fighter jet and killed 290 people. Over time, in Iran, rhetoric against the US and its greatest ally in the region, Israel, strengthened. Iran has denied Israel's right to exist since the 1979 revolution.
The Islamic Republic is concerned the U.S. poses an existential threat to Iran. Israel also poses an existential threat to Iran and think as the only Shia Persian state in the region, nobody likes them. And if Iran does not take its fight away from its homeland, it would have to face its enemies on Iranian soil.
Since the revolution, Iran has been seeking to export its ideology and expand its influence beyond its borders by supporting a network of well-armed groups. Over time, this included Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, as well as others in Iraq and Syria, collectively called the Axis of Resistance. This, along with concerns from the US that Iran could develop a nuclear weapons program, strained relations further and led to more sanctions. Iran has repeatedly said its nuclear program was only for peaceful purposes.
Iran has sanctions that the US has imposed on Iran because of its nuclear program. There are sanctions because of its regional activities, what the US calls terrorist activities in the Middle East. And there are also sanctions on the Islamic Republic because of the violations on human rights.
Some flavors just take you to another place, like the filet-o-fish, a crispy fish fillet made with...
There were attempts at reconciliation, but a breakthrough didn't come until 2015, when after more than a decade of negotiations, Iran signed an agreement to limit its nuclear program. In exchange, the US and others stopped crippling economic sanctions, allowing Iran to once again sell its oil internationally. This fell apart during President Trump's first presidency. He took the US out of that agreement and reimposed sanctions.
At the heart of the Iran deal was a giant fiction that a murderous regime desired only a peaceful nuclear energy program.
Tensions escalated under President Trump's maximum pressure campaign. Iran's economy, already weakened by decades of sanctions and mismanagement, worsened. In 2019, the US accused Iran of attacking oil tankers and its drones in the region. Then, in 2020, Iran's top military commander, General Qasem Soleimani, was killed by a US drone strike in Iraq. President Trump said Soleimani was behind attacks on Americans in the region. On October 7th, 2023, Hamas launched an attack on Israel, which sparked more than 2 years of war in Gaza. Iran denied being involved, but publicly supported the actions of Hamas. Israel responded with sustained attacks in Gaza against Hamas, as well as other Iranian allies and proxies in the region. In June 2025, the UN's nuclear watchdog said Iran had breached its nuclear obligations under the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Iran has always said that they have never looked to develop a nuclear weapon. Israel launched a series of strikes on Iran, resulting in a 12-day war between the two countries. And this culminated in direct US involvement, including airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities.
Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat.
Since the Iranian Revolution, the US and Iran were fighting each other in different arenas, diplomatic, economic, political, espionage, cyber. The only thing that had not happened was the use of military force. But he broke that taboo.
In September 2025, the UN reimposed a host of sanctions that had been lifted in 2015 because of increased Iranian nuclear activity. The economy went from bad to worse. Food price inflation increased by 70%, and then mostly due to sanctions, Iran's currency plummeted. This meant all imported products like cooking oil, wheat, and medicine became more expensive almost overnight. Shopkeepers and merchants in Tehran started protesting in response to these soaring prices at the end of December. Demonstrations grew quickly in size and spread across the country. There have been wide calls for political change, with crowds chanting slogans against Supreme Leader Khamenei. Some have called for the return of the exiled son of the former Shah, Reza Pahlavi. The regime has cracked down on protesters. Thousands have been killed. US President Donald Trump has expressed support for protesters and warned the regime against violence.
We don't want to see what's happening in Iran happen. And, if they want to have protests, that's one thing. When they start killing thousands of people, and now you're telling me about hanging, we'll see how that works out for them. It's not going to work out good.
Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has blamed President Trump for the protests and deaths.
ما رئیس جمهور آمریکا رو مجرم می‌دانیم، هم به خاطر تلفات، هم به خاطر خسارات، هم به خاطر تهمتی که به ملت ایران زد.
Some in Iran's opposition, including the exiled son of the former Shah, have welcomed President Trump's support.
I believe that President Trump is a man of his word, and ultimately he will stand with the Iranian people, as he has said.
But there's also unease.
So you do have some Iranians who can easily see, okay, so the enemy of my enemy is then my friend. So if Trump is the enemy of Khamenei, Trump could be helpful. But that's not all Iranians, and it just becomes very complicated when you don't want to straightforwardly welcome more American intervention.
And there are wider worries about the impact of any escalation.
The regional countries are concerned about Iran's actions once Iran gets cornered. This is why you're seeing the Arab countries of the Persian Gulf lobbying against the US striking Iran, because they know that they will be caught in the crossfire of the United States and Iran.
That's facts.
Join.
So that was a good video right there, y'all. That was a good video right there. That was a good video right there. All right. So let's see. Wait, what? Kristi Noem got fired. Kristi Noem got fired, chat. Kristi Noem got
worst
fired.
of the worst. Authorities to go out and go after the worst of the worst. Those
Kristi Noems have been fired, chat. Kristi Noems has been fired. Update, update, update right now.
targeted operations that go after violent offenders. President Trump was in office to only 135 of those agreements across the country signed, to now we have over 1,400 of them in place. And it's been very beneficial to make sure that we've removed over 400,000 criminal offenders out of this country. We've seen 3 million people leave our country that were here illegally, but over 750,000 of them were arrested and detained and removed. We'd much rather prefer that they volunteer to go home and that it can be a volunteer situation. But if not, if people are here illegally and committing crimes, we want to make sure we're able to detain them and get them out of your communities before we create more victims in the United States. I'm grateful for the work that you do because it's made a difference across this country. This last year, we've seen our murder rate in the United States of America drop to the lowest level since it's ever been recorded. And we've recorded our murder rate across the country for 125 years. And this year, we broke the record for the lowest murder rate in the country. And that's because of the work of individuals in this room and the individuals that we've been able to partner with.
That's because the murder rate has been going down since 2022. It's been declining already. It was already on the decline. I really can't stand when they try to take the credit for all of everything in just 1 year. 1 year, bro? Come on, Kristi Noems. Kristi Noems has been fired, chat. Kristi Noems has been fired, chat. Update, update, update. Let's get back into the video.
Some of you in the room as well to help interdict those drugs and stop them from coming into our country. You know, President Trump has been working hard to make sure that he's delivering on what he promised the American people, and that's to make America safe again. In doing so, we have gone out and found over 1,500 known and suspected terrorists.
All right, so we're following this live event of former DHS Secretary Kristi Noem because we're really not quite sure what's going on here. We know that the President of the United States came out and said that she is out of a job and that he is announcing that the Senator of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin, will become the next Secretary of Homeland Security. Clearly, he's got to go through a confirmation process. The president said in his tweet that that should be happening March 31st, 2026. But we're watching this live event. It was scheduled to start at 2, but then the news came out that he was firing the DHS secretary. So we're standing by to see if she takes questions, if she acknowledges the fact that she has lost her job. She's at this event in Nashville, the Sergeant Benevolent Association Major Cities Conference. She's talking about the impact of DHS and local law enforcement. And she even said, here's what we want to do for you. Here's how DHS wants to support local law enforcement so we can all work together. So she's still talking as if she is DHS Secretary. And Pierre Thomas, Chief Justice Correspondent, let me bring you into this because is she still the Secretary of DHS until the confirmation hearing happens and Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin replaces her? Can you sort of explain how this will work?
Hey, Sherry.
Precisely. The Truth Social post appears to suggest that she is still the current Homeland Security Secretary pending the senator being put in the job should he be confirmed. So there's a reference to the notion that she will be Homeland Security Secretary through the end of this month. So that means that you have this period of time where she's the Homeland Security Secretary, a bit of a lame duck, if you will. Lots of critical things going on, lots of critical decisions to be made. But it sounds like the White House and a number of other people will be very much heavily involved in the day-to-day while this transition takes place, because clearly the president was not comfortable or happy with the way she had been performing, hence the move.
You know, you think of, okay, she's taking questions now, Pierre. Let's listen in.
I've always wanted to ask her this. You sure can.
Secretary.
Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, thank you.
given our current state in Chicago, we have no talk about the sanctuary, law enforcement, more of a target of this guy,
I'm doing good, Sherry. How you doing, Sherry?
Kind of like within the 30 years, they're not causing public criminal.
Right.
I think that needs to be a focus that needs to happen.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. I don't know if you guys heard that question, but he talked about targeted enforcement. And Rob was saying how it's much more effective in a lot of, especially these sanctuary cities, where we can work on targeting those individuals who have a criminal history besides their legal status that may be in violation of their visa or work permit, but that we work on those and make sure we're going out and doing that with the local law enforcement as much as we possibly can. And that is something that we are going to continue to do, and make sure that we're focusing and prioritizing those individuals and make sure that we're addressing the public safety threats there. Thank you. Yes, sir. Okay, let me visit with him about it. That'd be great. Well, we're talking about doing some other tax benefits for other, so that may be something we could wrap into that conversation. Great idea. Perfect. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Madam Secretary. My name is Chris Callaghan. I'm the Vice President of San Francisco Police Officers Association. First of all, I just want to say thank you for recognizing major cities and all of our police unions here across the nation. It means a great deal for you to be here today, so thank you for that. My question, local officers have increasingly been on the front lines of Homeland Security, yet we are still funded and staffed like a city responsibility, not a national one. How will DHS ensure local agencies aren't carrying federal priorities on local budgets and with local staffing?
So you maybe have some challenges in San Francisco just because of your state laws and local laws that may, although you've got a mayor that works with us very well.
That's great.
He probably doesn't want me to talk about it a lot, actually, but he has been cooperative, and we have great conversations and talk quite often. And many times in doing law enforcement in your city, if the federal task force is coming in, you know, it's more preferable for the FBI to lead and the Department of Homeland Security to come in supportive roles, which is what we've done, and that works very well in your city. Thank you for your focus there, too. I think the city is seeing some dramatic improvements under this leadership. When you talk about funding, we have tied a lot of our funding that we have for enforcement this year and prioritized over $1.5 billion towards 287G agreements. So we've reimbursed departments that have an agreement, or a county or a sheriff, with funding them on overtime or on benefits, some of the other things that we can do. We've also, on the jail model, obviously reimbursed per beds. If you don't have the opportunity to participate in 287G, I think your best options for funding alternatives would be through some grants that we have at the department. We have specific grants towards terrorism grants that you can do, some security grants. And there's hazard mitigation grants that are in Homeland Security, safety grants through FEMA that would be available. So maybe what I'll do is I will forward those grant opportunities to all of you so that you can share them with your departments and have that opportunity. We also have some grants specifically targeted towards special operations. So if you've got some special operations that fit into that category, we could get you some funding that way.
Great. Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Yes. Hi, Craig. Yes.
One police officer and one sergeant called Border Patrol for assistance, and then after that happened, he tried to fire them for asking Border Patrol to come assist them.
Oh, shoot.
Most recently, they just suspended both officers for 30 days without pay.
The Border Patrol?
No, Detroit
those
police.
officers in Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit police. So the one incident was the female of the house called because the husband was trying to break into the house. When the officers got there, he had a bad passport and a bad social security card. So they called Border Patrol for assistance. They ended up taking him to jail because he had a warrant outside the city of Detroit.
Yes.
The second one was, it was a traffic stop. The fingerprint reader wasn't working, So they called for them to bring theirs over there, and the person had a warrant also. So both
We're going to continue to follow this live event with former Secretary of the DHS, Kristi Noem. And we say former because if you've been watching our breaking news coverage, the President of the United States did put out on Truth Social just prior to her beginning her comments here in Nashville to all the police unions represented at this conference in Nashville, where she's talking about DHS and law enforcement and local cooperation. The president made the announcement that he was relieving her of duties and replacing her if confirmed, which apparently that is going to take place at the end of March. Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin. Let's bring in our, well, actually, we were able to get some reaction from the Hill, from a few lawmakers. We put that together once the word came out. Our correspondents there on the Hill working to get direct reaction. Let's go ahead and play apparently what we have from Senators Kennedy and Senator Booker when they learned that Secretary Noem was out of a job.
Can we get your reaction to Senator Mullin being named DHS?
I didn't want to mention it before because it would have violated the confidence, but the president, when he called me Tuesday night, the night of the hearing, when he was mad as a murder hornet, he asked me what I thought about Mark Twain, and I said, A, I like him. B, he's very smart. C, he's a very good businessman.
Look, I've known Mark Twain now for a good amount of time. It is not about the head of this agency. It is about what the agency is doing in our communities. And obviously there'll be hearings, and I think a lot of this should be brought out. But we have an agency that is out of control. And what they're doing in our communities, what they're doing to the Constitution, their reckless, continuous violation of court orders, even Republican-appointed judges, they are routinely violating those court orders. That makes this whole agency, to me, morally bankrupt.
And what Senator Booker is referring there is that DHS has been partially shut down because Democrats like Booker there have been pushing to withhold funding from DHS unless it started to reform its tactics used by immigration agencies. Some DHS employees, including those in the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, had been receiving partial paychecks or had been working without pay. So this has been an ongoing problem within DHS and a battle among lawmakers as we now wait to see what happens with that confirmation hearing set for the end of March, according to the president. Could be pushed a little longer, while Kristi Noem remains as DHS Secretary, soon to be replaced and moved to another position. Our Jay O'Brien is up on the Hill. Jay, we saw the reactions from Senator Kennedy, who apparently likes Markwayne Mullin, the senator that the president has tapped to replace DHS Secretary Kristi Noem. We heard Senator Booker as well respond to what he feels DHS has become a morally bankrupt organization. What are you hearing there on the Hill from other lawmakers? What are your sources telling you? Bring us up to date.
Before we get into that, Kira, we just heard from Senator Markwayne Mullin, who just spoke to reporters right here as he ran up the steps of the Capitol. There are some reporters, you can see some of them over my shoulder, waiting for him to return. He didn't take many questions, but he indicated that he's got a lot more conversations to have with President Trump before he sets his full agenda as someone who would be put forward to lead DHS. But more importantly, he was asked, when did you find out that you were going to get this job, that the president was going to tap you to be the Secretary of Homeland Security? And he said, quote, I found out a little before you guys did. And then he ran into the Senate. And again, we're waiting for him to return if he's going to take more questions. To your point about some of those lawmaker reactions, the most notable one in there is Senator John Kennedy, Republican senator of Louisiana, because he engaged in some tough questioning against Noem when she was up here earlier this week for a hearing before his committee. And he asked her specifically about the more than $200 million of ads that DHS DHS spent and those ads starring Secretary Noem. And Kennedy said, first, he viewed that as an overspend. He viewed that as a misuse of government resources. And he accused the secretary of using those ads to try to elevate her profile. And what Kennedy just said to reporters moments ago is that he gave the White House a heads up that he was going to have some tough questions for the secretary, particularly about those ads. And he said he spoke to President Trump after that hearing, and he said the president was, quote, mad as a murder hornet about how the secretary had answered his questions. I asked Senator Kennedy, did you get a sense then that the president was going to oust Noem? He said you'd have to ask the president that question, but all of it to say it's very clear that those 2 days of marathon hearings up here on the Hill in both the Senate and then later the House yesterday were a turning point for Secretary Noem, Kira.
Yeah, turning point indeed. And this news came fast and furiously as well. Markwayne Mullin saying to reporters there, he found out just a little bit before we did. And it definitely sent all of us scrambling to get the news confirmed into air. I want to bring our Rachel Scott back, who covers the White House and the Hill for us. Let's talk a little bit about Markwayne Mullin, the senator.
Honestly, guys, I can't believe she lasted longer than I can't believe she lasted, or Pam Bondi lasted longer than she lasted. I thought Pam Bondi was gonna go first, and I still think Pam Bondi will go first. She will go too, follow right after Kristi Noem. He's about to get rid of those ladies, guys. He is about to get rid of those ladies. All right, but this is. Let's see if there's any reports out. Let's see. There's any reports out. Oh, we just got an 8-minute breaking news. U.S. crude oil tops $80 per barrel. Somebody just put that in the chat earlier. So U.S. crude oil tops $80 per barrel after Iran says it attacked U.S. tankers in the Persian Gulf. Okay, so U.S. crude oil rose above $80 per barrel as the escalated conflict involving Iran disrupted the global fuel supplies and halted tanker traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, a key route for about 20% of the world's oil export. So gas prices in the United States have increased by 27 cents in a week to an average of $3.25 per gallon, according to the AAA, marking the sharpest jump since the surge that followed Russia in 2022 invasion of Ukraine. All right, Iran said it struck an oil tanker with a missile, while the British Navy reported a large explosion on a tanker in Iraq waters. Ship owners have stopped sending vessels through the strait due to security fears. Though President Donald Trump said the United States could provide insurance and naval escorts for tankers if needed. All right, so you guys, that is just a summary right there. Let's see, let's go. I can't tell you. They said that the Times of Israel is a center article, but the Times of Israel is going to tell you everything about Israel. So I don't really know. All right, but I'm gonna read them anyway. I'm gonna see what they're gonna say. We're gonna read that article too. We're gonna see if they're saying something biased, right? So Iran claimed to, oh, see, there it is right there in the title. Iran claimed to have attacked U.S. tankers in the Persian Gulf, says it controlled passage in wartime. All right. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps claimed an attack on an American oil tanker in the northern regions of the Persian Gulf. The tanker is on fire, the statement asserts. The statement, read on Iranian state television, does not elaborate, but may be linked to an attack off the coast of Kuwait earlier today, in which a tanker was targeted, according to a report from a British military United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Center. The guards add in the statement that in times of war, passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be under the control of Islamic Republic. All right. What's up, Ari? All right. So that was from the Times of Israel. We're going to move on to CTV News. No, that's Canada. Is that Canada? Okay, that's Canada. We'll see what Canada's saying about it. Probably going to say the same thing. All right, more tankers come under attack. The U.S.-Israel conflict spreads in the region. All right. A Bahamas-flagged crude oil tanker was targeted by an Iranian remote control boat laden laden with explosive while anchored near Iraq's airport, Zub Airport. According to initial assessments, a second tanker at anchor off Kuwait was taken on water and spilling oil after a large explosion on its port side. 9 vessels have come under attack since the conflict broke out between the U.S., Israel, and Iran on Saturday. Iran launched a wave of missiles at Israel early on Thursday and also sent drones into Azerbaijan. I don't know how to say that, y'all. I'm sorry. Injuring 4 people. All right. It's a mess. It is a mess. It is a mess. Latest update on international news, around 200 ships, including oil and liquefied natural gas tankers, as well as cargo ships, remain at anchor in open waters off the coast of major Gulf producers, according to Reuters estimates based on the ship tracking data from the maritime traffic platform. All right, hundreds of other vessels remain outside the Strait of Hormuz, unable to reach ports. All right, shipping data showed the waterway is a key artery for around 1/5 of the world's oil and LNG supply. All right, President Donald Trump offered U.S. Navy escorts and insurance in a bid to restart shipping flows and curtail energy prices. All right, insurance market Lloyd of London said on Thursday it is engaging with the United States government on a plan. All right, hit the like button, guys. We're almost at 50 likes. Hit the like button. We're giving you updated information right now that's coming in. All right, BP evacuated foreign staff from Iraq's Rumalia oil field after 2 unidentified drones landed inside the field. Iraqi oil sources said Iraq has cut its oil production by nearly 1.5 million barrels a day as it ran out of storage and was unable to load tankers, officials told Reuters. All right, it's a lot. It's a mess right now, Ari. You're right. It's a mess. Also, a refinery in Kuwait is shut down and another reduced its processing rate. All right, a third refinery in Bahrain also cut its output. Oil prices jump again. Oil prices extended their rally on Thursday, with Brent climbing 3% and WTI rising 4%. All right, they have both jumped 16% since the war started on Saturday, and U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran disrupted Middle East supplies. All right, a benchmark European gas price gained around 3% on Thursday. It has surged nearly 60% so far this week. Russian President Vladimir Putin said his country could halt gas supplies to Europe right now amid the spike in energy prices from Iran crisis. Qatar, which provides 20% of the world's LNG supply, halted gas production earlier this week due to the conflict. All right. Other major producers such as the U.S. and Australia has little spare capacity to offset this lost supply, according to Reuters calculation and industry analysts. All right, so the EU task of refilling its gas storage in the coming months has become riskier and more expensive due to Iran's conflict and disrupted LNG supplies. It still imports some gas from Russia, planning to end the pipeline supply by late 2027 and ban new short-term LNG contracts from late April 2026. Asian importers, right? Asian importers came under further pressure from the disruptions in supply from the Middle East. China asked refiners not to sign new contracts to export fuel and to try to cancel shipments already committed, several people with knowledge of the matter said on Thursday. All right. So that was a little bit more information given by the CTV News, right? Which is very highly factual. Okay, so they had a lot of information. Iran calls for Trump's blood, says the U.S. will, hold on, follow the live updates. All righty. Did this just come out? This just came out. Yep. This just came out, chat. We got a live update right now as I speak. Iran calls for Donald Trump's blood, says the U.S. will bitterly regret sinking warships. Follow live updates, all right? Iran launched a new wave of counterattacks Thursday towards Israel and American bases across the Middle East as Prime Minister Mark Carney vowed to stand with its allies and didn't rule out Canadian military involvement in the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran. All right, so at a glance, all right, give me a break. Second to Jesus. Somebody did say that, right? Be sure to hit the like button, guys. Be sure to, we're giving you live updates right now. We're not watching any videos yet. We will get to some videos here in a minute, but we're giving you live updates right here. That literally a live update just came in. Iran just called for the head of the president, literally. Calls for Donald Trump. All right, so at a glance, Carney won't rule out Canada's military participation. Iranian leaders call for the shedding of Trump's Iranian leaders call for shedding of our president's blood. I'll say it like that. All right. Iran claims attack on the U.S. tankers in the Persian Gulf. Gas prices are up across Canada. The death toll has risen in Israel. I mean, not in Israel, Iran and Lebanon. And Israel tells residents to leave Beirut's southern suburbs. All right. So as the conflict entered in the sixth day, the Iranian regime said that the U.S. would bitterly regret sinking one of Iran's warships in the Indian Ocean, with a clerical leader calling on state television for the shedding of the president's blood. All right. Meanwhile, Israel continued its attacks in Lebanon against Iran-backed militants, right? Hezbollah militants. All right. The regional conflicts has destabilized much of the Middle East and shaken global financial markets. All right. Markedly, the price of oil, which continued to rise on Thursday today. All right. Okay. So that's some latest news right there. We're getting live updates, literally.
White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt is responding to growing pressure from Americans and allies to clarify what the United States' goals are for this war with Iran.
President Trump made the determination, a courageous determination and decision, that the path the United States was on with Iran had only one outcome: massive death and destruction at the hands of a nuclear-armed terroristic regime.
From destroying Iran's nuclear program to regime change, the Trump administration's reasoning for launching the war remains unclear. For more on what the U.S. endgame could be, we're joined by Akash Maharaj, Senior Fellow at the University of Toronto's Munk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy. Good morning.
Good morning, Anne.
We're going to take a look at a few of the reasonings that have been given and look at what the endgame could look like. When Trump launched the U.S. strikes on the weekend, he told Iranians to, quote, take over their government. If regime change is the objective, what type of U.S. military involvement in Iran would be required?
It's not clear that regime change.
Mama Duck says, thanks for today, Dom. See you later, especially now when I'm in your official fan club. I'm off to do it live of my own. Thank you so much, Mama Duck. Thank you for coming to see me, Mama Duck. And good luck on your live. Mine won't be lasting too much long, so hopefully you'll be on by the time I finish up. I'll be able to come over there and check you out and show some love. Everybody, please show some love to my moderator, Mama Duckery, right there. Please show some love to her. She's getting ready to go live, and she's a wonderful person. So, Mama Duck, hopefully I can come over there and see you soon. Have a good one, Mama Duck. All right. So, let's get back into the video. Just have to show some love to my moderator, Mama Duck, right there.
Is in fact the objective. Trump himself has said that while he had individuals in mind to take over the Iranian government, those individuals have all been killed in the bombing campaign. And indeed, Pete Hegseth has gone on to say that there will be no efforts by the United States to foster state building or democracy building in Iran. To the extent that one can discern any kind of a strategic objective in bombing Iran, it seems to be to cripple the existing regime rather than thinking through the question of what will happen after that regime is crippled. It's possible that by bombing the regime and by breaking it down, Trump will render Iran too weak to harm American interests. The alternative is that he may simply sow total chaos in the Middle East, which is dangerous for everyone, including the United States.
Trump is also vowing to destroy Iran's missile program and the Navy. Iranian missiles do not have the capacity to strike United States soil. So then what options does Iran have to strike back against the U.S.?
Right now, or at least at the start of this campaign, most observers believe that Iran had about 2,000 long-range missiles and an unknown number of Shahed drones, which are drones that have about a 2,000-kilometer radius. It used them somewhat indiscriminately and extravagantly in the first couple of days of the campaign. It is now using them with almost painful economy, which suggests that they are running out of these munitions. Iran cannot defeat the United States, but it can potentially wear down its political will. It costs about, well, I should say for every dollar that Iran is spending on drones, the United States is spending about $25 to shoot them down.
Shoot them down, yep.
Nevertheless, the United States has, to all practical purposes.
Didn't we just read that earlier, y'all? Didn't we just read that earlier? For every dollar that Iran spends on a drone, right, the United States is spending $25 to shoot them down. But I would say $50. I would say $50. That's what I would say. I would say $50. They're spending $50 to shoot down a $1 drone. We are spending a lot of money on these defensive mechanisms.
An infinite capacity to manufacture and deploy arms. Iran can really make this painful for the United States and painful for American allies, but it cannot hope to vanquish the US. It can't take away the American ability to wage war against them, but they can diminish American willingness to carry on with the war in the weeks and months ahead.
Well, I just want to pick up on that point, Akash, because part of war is being able to sell a war to your own people. And this is a country that's been through Iraq, they've been through Afghanistan. They've not only spent billions of dollars, but they've also lost a lot of American lives. And so day 6 of this war, there's no nukes found, there's no regime change, but they've already spent millions and they've lost 6 soldiers. So is that the pain point you're talking about?
I think that Donald Trump has miscalculated in this campaign. Before he entered politics formally, when Barack Obama was still president, Trump himself said that the only reason a president would bomb or attack Iran would be to distract the American people from his poor performance as president and an attempt to bolster his polling numbers. Now, of course, Trump is himself president of the United States, and he is bombing Iran on the eve of midterm elections in the US, where the polls suggest that he is not going to prosper. In addition, Trump's core supporters, a very large percentage of his core supporters, were drawn to his constant refrain that he would not enmesh the United States in foreign wars, that he would withdraw the US from international institutions, and that he would turn his back on foreign conflicts. Clearly, that is a promise he has now shattered. And I suspect that his supporters will not thank him for it at the ballot box. The US military is not like Canada's military. It is in many ways the employer of last resort. And as a result, if he does deploy troops on the ground in Iran, those will not be the sons and daughters of congressmen and senators. Those will be the sons and daughters of middle income and poor Americans, the people whose support he has relied on to date, and people who will not thank him for putting their children in harm's way.
What groups or countries could Iran call out to for help and support in this ongoing conflict?
Iran has succeeded in isolating itself from countries in the entire region. It has virtually no friends, with the possible exception of Russia, another pariah state. Iran's allies have not been formal states, but instead terrorist organizations that it has fomented in the region and across the world. Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in Gaza, a whole series of militias in Iraq and Syria. I would expect them to be calling upon those irregular forces to engage in terrorist activities in the surrounding Gulf states and the Arab states that have allied themselves with the United States. They have a limited capacity to strike the United States itself, but Iran's weapon of retaliation will not be a concerted strategy. It will be chaos and anarchy. But the truth is, chaos and anarchy can be effective tools in a war of attrition.
Explain that quickly, Akash. What do you mean?
The United States relies upon its allies in the region to provide bases and staging points to attack Iran. Most of those countries are themselves dictatorships and tyrannies, but that is not to say that they are completely impervious to public opinion. The bombs and drones that Iran is unleashing are not falling on the United States. They are falling upon those Arab states that surround Iran and states further afield. There's a limit to how long the population in those countries will be willing to support an American war that is costing the blood and treasure, not of Americans, but of themselves.
Akash Maharaj, Senior Fellow at the University of Toronto's Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
So y'all seen that, man. Y'all seen that.
You've said
PM taking questions in Australia. Let's see what Australia got to say. Let's see what Australia, that was Canada. Let's see what Australia got to say about this whole ordeal.
Canada will not participate in U.S. military action in Iran. So can you definitively say that's going to remain the case, even if hostilities broaden, escalate, or are prolonged?
You've asked a fundamental hypothetical in a conflict that can spread very broadly. Today's events, recent events, point to that. So one can never categorically rule out participation. We will stand by our allies when it makes sense. There's a distinction between the offensive actions that were taken and are being taken by the United States and Israel, that were taken by them without consultation with Canada, with other allies, and we're not party to those actions. But we will always defend Canadians. We will always stand by and defend our allies when called upon.
Y'all heard it right there.
I want to bring in Senior Fellow at the Atlantic Council's Scowcroft Middle East Security Initiative, Thomas Warwick. Thomas, good morning. Good to see you again.
Good morning.
I'd like to start this conversation by getting your take on what we heard from Starmer, because some people might listen to him today and this announcement about those 4 squadron jets that are going in and the Typhoon jets, and wondering if Britain is getting sucked into this, and could this be a sign of things to come with other countries? Your thoughts?
Well, so both the British Prime Minister, the Canadian Prime Minister, the President of France, and the Chancellor of Germany have all taken the position this war was not our idea. We don't approve of the legal basis for its being started, but Iran's actions since it started pose a danger to everyone's security. And so you see things like Starmer sending more fighter jets to Qatar. They will be able to shoot down the Shahed drones that have been targeting the Gulf states and Western bases, not just American bases, but Western bases in the region. It's far more effective to fly a plane for an hour and shoot some cannons at these slow-moving drones than it is to fire off $1 million missile to hit a $50,000 drone. And so I expect we will actually see more of that. And the one thing to note is that Iran's air defenses have been so thoroughly degraded by U.S. and Israeli military action that it is actually relatively safe to fly Western aircraft over the Gulf. As happened in Kuwait a few days ago, the danger is a friendly fire incident. And I'm told that after that incident, there were measures put in place so that that will not happen again. So this is relatively easy, but the entire outcome of this war is obviously still very much up in the air.
Do Israel and the United States have the same objectives in this war?
They're very similar, but not exactly. Israel wants to see the Iranian threat to Israel's security ended. The United States wants that, as well as the end of the threat of Iran to U.S. political and military interests in the Gulf. It wants a permanent end to Iran's nuclear program. And there was a remarkable description of those negotiations by Steve Witkoff on a conservative podcast that should really change everyone's understanding of how we got into this war. It was a colossal cultural misunderstanding, primarily, but not exclusively on the Iranian side. And so there will be efforts to try to prevent any resurgence of Iran's nuclear ambitions. As well, we've seen the concern over Iran's army proxies, its missile program, and the repression of the Iranian people. So U.S. goals are somewhat broader than Israel's goals, but I think other Arab countries actually share some of the American goals, even if they won't say so publicly.
Well, Saudi Arabia, yeah. Let's talk about what's happening in your backyard today. Senate Republicans, they voted last night against the president's war powers. The House will vote today. What domestic factors are at play here?
And that's a good place to start. That's a good place to start right there. We're gonna go ahead and get into a few different articles here. Okay, so we read about that. All right, let's see if we get some updates, chat. Let's see if we can get some updates on anything. House Republican leader urges Republican Representative Gonzalez to end re-election bid after he admitted the affair with the aide. Lord have mercy. Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Here we go. We got 100 sources on this already? 34 sources on this. We need the high factual sources. We need the high factual sources. Sacramento. Oh, they coming in, chat. The sources are coming in. What's up, Karina? What's going on? What's going on? How you doing, Karina? All right, so here we go. Trump fires. Yep, it's out. It is out right now. It is out.
Kristi Noem is
out.
Now, why have I been critical of Secretary Noem? Because I don't think we're focusing on, we have limited resources. ICE can't be everywhere at once. There's very few people in Capitol Hill that support law enforcement more than me, including the sworn ICE officers. In fact, I've just been told, fortunately, in about a week and a half, we're going to get a plaque on the wall over the Capitol, thanking the Capitol police officers and all the agencies that responded on January 6th. All those thugs have actually been pardoned, and yet we haven't thanked the Capitol police officers for their work here. So when I say I'm unapologetically pro-law enforcement, you can count in every single sworn officer in Homeland Security. So why am I disappointed with Secretary Noem? Because we're not going after enough people who did this damage at the expense of running numbers that Stephen Miller wants out of the White House. We just want numbers. We want 1,000 a day, 6,000 a day, 9,000 a day, because numbers matter, right? No, they don't matter. Quality matters, not quantity, quality. And what we've seen is a disaster. Under your leadership, Ms. Noem, a disaster. What we've seen is innocent people getting detained that turn out are American citizens. I could talk about the culture that's been created here with Stephen Miller aiding and abetting. I heard first reports that he was the one that said it was a domestic terrorist situation.
I know Mama Duck is live. She just literally left out of here, Karina. You think you want me to leave my live that I currently have right now and go into her live? Think about what you're saying. But she just left out of here. She literally just left out of here.
Talk about the culture that's been created here with Stephen Miller aiding and abetting. I heard first reports that he was the one that said it was a domestic terrorist situation where 2 people lost their lives in Minneapolis. I've heard that report. Maybe you can refute it. I don't know that we'll have time for you to respond because I'm giving you a performance evaluation here. I'm not looking for a response.
All right. So y'all heard that. He ripped into Kristi Noem. Trump says he will replace DHS Kristi Noem. Trump says that he will replace DHS Kristi Noem, Secretary, with Senator Mark Wayne Mullins. All right. Thursday, President Trump announced on Truth Social that he is replacing Department of Homeland Security Kristi Noem with Oklahoma Senator Mark Wayne Mullin effective March 31st, 2026. Effective March 21st, 2026. Under pressure from controversy over enforcement and spending, Noem faced bipartisan criticism during hearings, including scrutiny over $220 million Mount Rushmore ad campaign since February 13th. All right, under federal vacancy law, Mullen will serve as acting DHS Secretary while awaiting Senate confirmation, and Trump praised him as a MAGA warrior. All righty. While announcing Noem's reassignment as special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. The move immediately reshuffles a divisive post as Kristi Noem became the first cabinet secretary to leave during Trump's second term amid DHS funding lapsing since February 13th and Representative Robin Kelly's impeachment filing. All right, the senator who announced Wednesday he is not seeking re-election has faced criticism for comments about LGBTQ officials, and Trump highlighted Mullen's decade in the U.S. House and MMA background when naming him the DHS Secretary. Wow. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Yeah, she just left out of here. She told me herself that she was going live. She just left out of here not too long ago. All right, so that's the update on that, guys. Kristi Noem is fired, and she will be replaced March 31st, 2026. It is confirmed. It is definitely confirmed. All right, so let's see here what we got 6 minutes ago. Okay, we got another story that just came, literally. Uh-oh, that's what it was. That's what it was. That's what it was. She said that the president, in that hearing, that's what she messed up at. In that hearing, she's not fired, stop lying, Josephina. Shut the hell up. Anyways, Trump tells Reuters he did not sign off on ad campaigns featuring Homeland Security Secretary, because that's what she said in the hearing. She said that the president signed off on the $220 million ad campaigns. Okay, so now this is just in from Reuters. All right, let's see if we can get this go ahead and going. Get this going right here. We're not gonna do that. No. All right, so on March the 5th, President Donald Trump told Reuters he did not sign off on a $220 million DHS ad campaign featuring Kristi Noem, saying, "I never knew anything about it." During the hearings this week, lawmakers pressed Noem over concerns that the contract was offered to just 4 companies instead of through broad biddings. The contract was awarded to 2 firms linked to Republican operatives. All right, with Safe America Media receiving $143 million and People Who Think receiving $77 million, while subcontractors, the strategy group, was paid $226,000, neither responding to the request. Senator John Kennedy pressed Noem about whether Trump approved the ads, and she defended the procurements as competitive and legal, saying it was handled correctly and legally. All right, DHS defending limiting the pool on the grounds of an urgent immigration threat, while last year's Associated Press and ProPublica reports connected the awarded firms to long-term Republican operatives. All right, so Trump has denied that he gave the approval on the campaign ads. All right, and it's so funny because there's speculations out there that her husband owns one of these companies. That was one of these media companies. There's allegations. There's allegations out there. Allegations. I'm not gonna say it's facts, but it's allegations. All right. Alrighty. Chuck Schumer just came in and said, make sure we want to read this right. Fox News, what did it say? Fox News. Let's see what Fox News had to say about what Chuck Schumer said. Chuck Schumer. I don't read Fox News much because their articles are horrible, but we'll go to it. Schumer Dems hold firm on DHS funding despite Noem's bombshell ousting. All right, so they're now reporting that now. So let's see what Fox News have to say about this whole deal. I don't like to be biased, guys. I like to play everybody. So we're going to see what Fox News has to say. All right.
We've seen historically, and I'm going back to the early 90s with, the Gulf War, that anytime there is a conflict, especially in the Middle East, with escalating tensions, military action, and now, a declaration of war, it does have a significant impact on the ability for us to work collectively to share intelligence, to get information in a timely manner from our, federal.
Okay. I thought he was speaking on something else. Anyways, public safety. All right. Public safety experts warn DHS shutdown could impact federal response to potential terror threats. Okay. See, this is why I don't like reading their articles, man. Their articles are trash. Fox News is just trash, bro. Trash. Just a trash organization. All right, so DHS funding impasses, freezes security grants, stall local law enforcement. The shutdown has essentially paralyzed local operations by delaying funding and grants rollouts, by furloughing critical personnel, a share coalition said in a letter to Congress. All right. Furloughing. Damn, I couldn't get that word out. You know what's so crazy? Somebody said that she wasn't fired. She was replaced and moved to another role. Libtards. It's funny. That's how I know you don't read shit. You just probably just go listen to the news. You don't read anything. All right. Because literally there's 34 left and right sources that are saying that she was fired. So what? The right sources are libtards too? These motherfuckers are crazy, bro. Some of y'all are stupid, bro. Alrighty. Right-wing source. Kristi Noem's out. Fired, out, replaced. What does it matter? She's gone. She's gone. She's gone, right? The pressure has been on. She is gone. Donald Trump fires Homeland Security Secretary Noem. All right. Trump dismisses National Security Secretary Noem. Center source. Donald Trump fires Homeland Security. That's a center source. That's not a left or right source. All right. Left-wing source. Kristi Noem's out at U.S. Department. All right. Right-wing source. Trump replaces Homeland Security. Fired. Center source. Trump fired. It ain't just left wings. It ain't just, you move along. Get off my damn channel. How about that? You move along. Telling me to move along my damn channel. You move along. Yeah, come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow. 86,000 seconds. Telling me to move on, fam. You move your ass on off my channel. Come back tomorrow. 86,000 seconds. How about that? Use your brain. Use your brain. Use your brain. Telling me to move on my damn channel. Boy, you don't sit your ass down. I control this shit over here. Now you can't say shit. I just moved your ass on. How about that? Motherfucker telling me to move on. Better use your damn brain. Boy, crazy. Trump says he wants to be involved in picking Iran's next leader as war ripples across the region. All right. Dubai, the UAE. U.S. President Donald Trump said Thursday he should be involved in choosing Iran's next supreme leader as the U.S. and Israel hammered the country for its sixth day. Iran kept it up its retaliatory attacks on Israel, American bases, and countries around the region. Trump ruled out the son. I can't say his name. Khamenei. The son, Ayatollah's son. We'll just say Ayatollah's son. All right. Trump ruled him out, a front runner to replace his father, Ayatollah, who was unalived in the opening strike of the war. Trump comments to the American news website Axios were likely to renew questions about whether the U.S. and Israel seek the overthrow of the Islamic Republic or just change in its politics or policies. As the conflict has appeared increasingly open-ended, the war has escalated each day, affecting additional 14 countries across the Middle East and beyond. On Thursday, all right, Azerbaijan, I hope I said that right, Azerbaijan, I don't know, accused Iran of attacking it with drones, all right? Though Tehran denied that, Iran said that the U.S. would bitterly regret torpedoing an Iranian warship near Lanka a day earlier. Okay. All right. So Israel issued a mass evacuation warning for all of its southern suburbs as the fighting escalated, blah, blah, blah. I think we read about that earlier. Iran's attacks have targeted their Arab neighbors, disrupting oil supply and snarled global air travel. The war has killed at least 2,330 people in Iran, more than 100 in Lebanon, and around a dozen in Israel, according to officials in those countries. 6 U.S. troops have been unalived. All right, so we already know what's going on with that. Let's see if there's any updates, guys. Hit the like button on the way in here, guys. Hit the like button on the way in. Thank you for being here. All right, so we got a Kuwait source that just came in. Kennedy knew Trump offered U.S. back in the U.S. crude oil. We read about that already. Did that just come in? That did just come in. Sure did. Military.com. Washington Top News. Yep, that's the very high factual right there. So let's see. All right, the State Department announces closure of the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait after retaliatory Iranian strikes. All right, this just came in at today, 2:17 or 1:17. I guess that would be Eastern Standard Time. The State Department announces closure of the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait after retaliatory Iranian strikes. Is that really all they got? There's not enough sources on this. There's not enough sources on this. Let me go over here real quick. See if the military.com has more information on this. All right, here we go. We got some more information on it. I'm like, damn, where all the information at? All right, so the State Department on Thursday announced the closure of the U.S. Embassy in Kuwait following retaliatory Iranian strikes. Iran has fired waves of missiles and drones at the American allied Gulf country since the start of the war. 6 American soldiers were unalived in an Iranian drone strike in Kuwait on Sunday. This is a breaking news update. All right, the U.S. President Donald Trump said Thursday he should be involved in choosing Iran's next leader, and Israel hammered the country for the 6th day. All right, Trump ruled out blah, 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 blah. All the while, the U.S. and Israel have battered Iran with nationwide strikes targeting their military capabilities, leadership, and nuclear programs. Iran attacks have targeted their Arab neighbors. All right. Trump compares Iran to Venezuela. All right. Just a lot in this article, I ain't gonna lie. It looks like it's just covering a lot that I've already read. Okay. The war keeps expanding. What's up, everybody? The Operation Forget Epstein is funny. That's funny. So the war keeps expanding. Israel announced multiple incoming missiles attacks and air sirens sounded in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. The Israeli military said it carried out a wave of strikes on Iran's ballistic missile launch sites. Gulf countries also reported coming under fire in the UAE. I'm sorry about that. A drone was shot down near Al Dhafra Air Base, which hosts U.S. forces. Shrapnel fell to the ground. Authorities said 6 people were wounded. Qatar evacuated residents near the U.S. Embassy in Doha as a temporary precaution, and later reported a missile attack on the city. Saudi Arabia said it destroyed a drone in its province bordering Jordan. Kuwait said missiles were shot toward it Thursday evening, activating air defense systems. Okay. Bahrain said an Iranian missile hit a state-run oil refinery on Thursday, sparking a fire that was extinguished. The refinery was still working, it said. and there were no reports of casualties. Earlier, Bahrain said its forces had intercepted 75 Iranian ballistic missiles and 124 drones since the start of the war. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, chat. That is a lot of money. Real talk. Real talk. It says Iran denied that it launched drones towards Azerbaijan. I don't know how to say that country. Iran has also repeatedly denied targeting oil infrastructures and other civilian targets, even as its missiles and drones have hit such sites. All right, since the war began Saturday, ships have been attacked in the Gulf of Oman and the Strait of Hormuz, through which about a fifth of the world's oil is shipped. That has caused oil prices to soar. All right. All right. So let's see what's in the blind spots for today. Oh, yep. I know Donald Trump is not happy about that. I know he's not happy about that, but we're just going to throw a blind spot story in here, guys. The White House ballroom vote delayed after significant public input, Federal Commission says. All right. So on Thursday, the National Capital Planning Commission postponed its planned vote and set a new date for April the 2nd after receiving over 32,000 public comments opposing the project. CNN AI-assisted review found more than 97% of the public commenters opposed construction, with over 8,000 form letter participants citing $300 million spending claims and reporters verifying 99% accuracy. The East Wing was demolished in October to make way for a $400 million ballroom spanning 22,000 square foot with a second story to the West Wing, ballroom architect Shalom Barani says. A judge ruled last week that the National Trust for Historic Preservation raised the wrong legal claims, allowing construction to continue. Approval by the NCPC on Thursday would require court intervention for further delays. All right, critics warned the White House ballroom project, supported by a recommendation from the NCPC, reflects Trumpification, and protesters are expected again Thursday. All right. Hello, boo-boo. Boo-boo, long time no see. How you doing? So that was just a blind spot story that we wanted to get into. Good to see you, boo-boo. All right, so they have delayed the ballroom vote for the president at the White House. They have delayed it. So we'll get back into that story once they updated that story. So let's see here. See, we got 18 sources on that, so that's good. See. And so, you know, in the midst of everything that's happening right now, UFC White House, right? UFC White House. Good to see you, boo-boo. In the midst of everything happening, Donald Trump still seems to be, as his press secretary said, he still seems to be walking and chewing gum at the same time. All right, so Trump calls on Republicans to pass the SAVE Act at the expense of everything else. All right, so we're going to get into this story real quick. So we're going to read the National Desk. The National Desk is a right-wing source, high factuality. So we're going to see what they had to say about it. Hopefully it's not a paywall. Hopefully it's not a paywall. All right, so Trump calls on Republicans to pass the SAVE Act at the expense of everything else, right? By Charlotte Hazard, the National Desk. All right. President Donald Trump on Thursday called for Republicans to pass the SAVE Act and not the watered-down version. The Republicans must do with passion and at the expense of everything else the Save America Act and not the watered-down version, he wrote on Truth Social. Truth Social. Truth Social. Yeah, do I gotta accept that? All right, so Donald Trump wrote this on Truth Social. If I can click on it. It ain't gonna let me click on this post. Oh my gosh, bro. Anyways, y'all heard what he said. He said what he said on Truth Social. The Republicans must do with passion and at the expense of everything else to Save America Act, and not the watered down version. So let me see if I can get that to turn. Anyways, don't worry about it. All right, so the SAVE Act is short for the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act. The legislation would require proof of U.S. citizenship when people register to vote in federal elections. Last month, the House passed the SAVE Act in a 218 to 213 vote. All right, it is now up to the Senate to vote on the legislation. Florida GOP Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna has been pushing for the SAVE Act to be passed, and at one point threatened to shut down the floor of the House if the Senate didn't pass it. Last week, GOP senators were criticizing the Senate for having its annual bipartisan dog show instead of focusing on the Save America Act. All right, so let's get into a video real quick on what they're saying about this.
Republicans in Congress are bringing back a federal bill called the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, otherwise known as the SAVE Act, which is a federal proposal that would mandate documentary proof of U.S. citizenship, such as passport or birth certificate, for voter registration in federal elections, as well as a government-issued photo ID to cast a ballot. And of course, it's being met with backlash from Democrats. Now, the bill has previously passed the House, and GOP leaders, including President Trump, are advocating for its enactment ahead of the 2026 midterms to protect the integrity of elections. However, the bill is facing significant obstacles in the Senate, where Democrats are using procedural tools like the filibuster to block its progress, making near-term passage highly unlikely. Democrats argue that this kind of federal ID and citizenship requirement would actually suppress voter turnout, especially among groups like low-income voters, women, young people, and racial minorities, many of whom which might not have these necessary documents. In a recent CNN interview, Dana Bash asked House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries about his opposition to the SAVE Act, citing a Pew Research poll indicating that 83% of Americans and 71% of Democrats support requiring an ID to vote. And Jeffries claimed that the GOP effort is an attempt to rig elections.
First of all, every state is empowered to be able to make the decision on their own, and we completely and totally support that. What Donald Trump wants to do is try to nationalize the election. Translation, steal it, and we're not going to let it happen. We stopped them in terms of their gerrymandering efforts, where they were going to try to redraw congressional maps in red states throughout the nation, not expect Democrats to respond forcefully, and try to rig the midterms. They failed.
Last week, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer also opposed the SAVE Act, comparing it to Jim Crow-era restrictions, and vowed to block the vote in the Senate. He echoed Jeffries' concern that Republicans are trying to nationalize elections.
I want to be very clear. The SAVE Act is dead on arrival in the Senate, and every single Senate Democrat will vote against any bill that contains it. The SAVE Act is nothing more than Jim Crow 2.0.
Defending the bill, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt emphasized that the SAVE Act would ensure that only U.S. citizens participate in federal elections.
The SAVE Act directs states to remove non-citizens from their voter rolls. And we know in states across the country, the president is right to point this out. In states like California or in places like New York City, non-citizens are allowed to vote in state and local elections.
What do you think? Should voters be required to show an ID before casting a ballot? Let us know below in the comments.
Yeah, let us know below in the comments, y'all. Y'all didn't know I was finna come up out of here, did you? Let us know in the comments. Should voters be allowed, or should they be made or forced to show their ID before they vote? Let us know in the comments, y'all. All right. Okay. Representative Andrew Clyde says there are currently not 50 Republican senators willing to force the talking filibuster to pass the Save America Act. Georgia GOP Representative Andrew Clyde said on X, one of the concerns, there isn't enough time, but yesterday there was enough time to hold a Mardi Gras dog parade. No, I'm not kidding. Damn, did they have a parade in the Senate for real? I ain't finna play that. I know they playing. All right, so The Save America Act has still not made it past the Senate yet. So it's going to be a while. It's going to be a while. We'll see what they do on that. Give me a moment to get some water, guys. Hit that like button on the way in here, guys. Boo-boo, how you doing, boo-boo? Where you at? Where you at, boo-boo? Where you at? All right, so let's see if we got any updated information. Let's see if we have any updated information right here. Let's see if we got any updated. When is Pam Bondi supposed to be having her hearing? I gotta figure out when Pam Bondi will be having her hearing coming up.
Without objection.
22, that her fundraising pitches highlighted her ties to wealthy Russians. Although Drakova denied writing those emails and said she did not receive Russian funding.
Pam Bondi.
Epstein advised Drakova as she launched her Silicon Valley venture capital firm. And she introduced Epstein to the contacts she had made in the tech world. In one emailed interaction in 2017, Drakova,
Pam
after
Bondi.
claiming to meet billionaire Jeff Bezos, tells Epstein
Bondi.
she is, quote, trying to understand what she is not understanding about him, end quote. Epstein writes back that Bezos is, quote, smart, funny, and visionary. He's a very nice person, probably, mistyped, but obviously means probably, the best in the valley among the bees. The files also indicate that Epstein had dealings with Oleg Deripaska, a Russian billionaire who the Treasury Department has identified as a money launderer for Vladimir Putin. Deripaska also cultivated a friendship with Peter Mandelson, a senior figure in Britain's Labour Party. It appears that Mandelson tried to use Deripaska's contacts to acquire a last-minute Russian visa for Epstein in 2010. Correspondence also shows Epstein's assistant trying to set up a meeting for Epstein and Deripaska in Moscow or Paris. There's also audio of Epstein advising then Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak to have dinner with Putin to line up work after he leaves government. There is at least one itinerary for a lengthy trip across Russia and photos of Epstein and Ghislaine in what is believed to be Russia, including with people who appear to be Russian soldiers. Umar Jabrailov, a former Russian senator who committed suicide in recent days, described Maxwell as a soulmate. Epstein had a series of Russian visas between 2011 and his death in 2019. Epstein's crimes left a long money trail, and that trail winds back to Russia.
What?
Ranking member of the Finance Committee, Ron Wyden, has doggedly sought the truth about Epstein's transactions with Russian banks and Eastern European entities. One suspicious activity report filed by JP Morgan Chase after Epstein's death shows that between 2003 and 2019, Epstein conducted 4,725 wire transactions totaling over $1 billion.
Damn!
And that's just one bank.
One bank.
Epstein used multiple banks. According to JP Morgan Chase, the wire activity was flagged for the suspicious activity report for being, and I quote, consistent with alleged sex trafficking of minors and for involving, quote, the high-risk jurisdiction of the Russian Federation, end quote.
They really know all
CNN
of this
notes that two accounts, including in the suspicious activity report, were linked to now sanctioned Russian banks Alfa Bank and Sberbank. Also named in the suspicious activity reports, Maxwell. Associated entities like Brunel's MC2 Model Management and various women and girls. Let's go back to the journalist Vicky Ward.
Go back.
Sources who range from former arms dealers to former spies, and also Hoffenberg, suggest that Epstein, who lacked any sort of moral compass, decided to compromise influential people by recording them doing things they wouldn't want made public. And once he got out of jail, in the last 10 years of his life, Epstein bragged to various people, including journalists, that he was advising a whole assortment of foreign leaders who included Vladimir Putin, Mohammed bin Zayed, Mohammed bin Salman, various African dictators, Israel, the British, and of course the Americans. He also told several of the same people that he was making a fortune out of arms, drugs, and diamonds. I'm still reading the same quote. He was known in the intelligence world as a hyper-fixer, somebody who can go between different cultures and networks.
Hey, Stacy.
Epstein was, of course, known for his parties, which he insisted on hosting in his various mansions, where he could completely control the environment. Many of Epstein's victims have said they believe they were recorded. Virginia Giuffre wrote in her posthumous memoir that Epstein had a huge library of videotapes and a room in his New York home where monitors displayed real-time surveillance footage from his properties. Quote, he explicitly talked about using me and what I'd been forced to do with certain men as a form of blackmail, so these men would owe him favors, she wrote. Another survivor said Epstein once walked her through his mansion, pointing out pinhole-sized cameras. He boasted that they were in every room. According to Epstein's emails, in 2014, he directed a staffer to procure hidden cameras, which were installed in tissue boxes. The New York Times obtained photos of the interior of Epstein's New York mansion, which show a camera installed near the ceiling of the master bedroom, and another along the molding of an adjoining room. The Times also spotted cameras near a suite of bathrooms on the same floor as Epstein's bedroom. When police searched his Palm Beach home in 2005, they, quote, located two covert, hidden, close cameras, end quote. Both cameras were located inside clocks, one by a desk and the other in the garage. It's worth noting that Epstein often seemed to get tipped off in advance as to when the Palm Beach police would be dropping by.
Thank you, Stacy.
Epstein is said to have once told an ex-girlfriend, I collect people. I own people.
Damn.
I can damage people.
Damn.
The disgraced financier Hoffenberg allegedly claimed to the National Enquirer in a final account before his death that, quote, wherever Epstein was entertaining, he and Ghislaine were taping. That report was only released last summer, as Hoffenberg had asked the Enquirer not to publish his comments until 3 years after his death. According to the Daily Beast, the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alex Acosta, is once said to have claimed Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence, and that the decision to let him off easy in 2008 was made above his pay grade. The Prime Minister of Poland, a country that has extensive experience with Russian intelligence operations, has opened an investigation into potential links between Epstein and Russian intelligence. Prime Minister Tusk said, more and more leads, more and more information, and more commentary in the global press all relate to the suspicion that this unprecedented pedophilia scandal was co-organized by Russian intelligence services. According to alleged anonymous intelligence sources published in the British tabloid The Daily Mail last month, some believe, and I'm quoting here, Jeffrey Epstein was running the world's largest honey trap operation on behalf of the KGB when he procured women for his network of associates, end quote.
All right. His testimony is getting a little boring, so we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. See if we got any updates, guys. Let's see if we have any updates. See if we have any updates. Shout out to Mama Duck. Mama Duck. Shout out to Mama Duck. My moderator, she live right now. Shout out to Mama Duck. My moderator is live right now. Mama Duckery. Go check her out. She is live right now. Just gave you a shout out. I'm still live.
I hope you are just quiet in chat. Yeah.
All right. See if we got some updates.
Hey, Dom. Thank you. I hope you check back in later when you're not on live. I will be on for, what's time is it? Yeah, for like an hour more at least. So, love you too, Dom.
All right, we'll check back in with Mama Duck. My moderator, Mama Duck, we'll check back in with her. She is live right now. Make sure y'all go check her out. All right, so we did just get some updated sources in. All right. Iran, how many sources we got on this? 4 sources. The Hill reports. Okay. We got some reports on this. All right. Let's see what they're talking about from the Hill. All right. Iran foreign minister, ground invasion would be a disaster for the United States. All right. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Thursday that his country military is waiting for the U.S. to send troops into the country, a possibility the Trump administration has refused to rule out. We are confident that we can confront them, and it would be a big disaster for them, all right, says one of the leaders. We have prepared ourselves to confront with any scenario, with any eventuality, with any possibility, and we know that we can handle that. All right. Additionally, Araghchi said Iran is not requesting a ceasefire and that the country does not see any reason we should negotiate with the United States following failed rounds of nuclear talk in the lead up to the joint U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran last Saturday. We negotiated with them twice, and every time they attacked us in the middle of negotiation, he said. So there is no request for a ceasefire by the United States, and there is no request for a negotiation with the U.S. from us. All right, says Iran. Iranian and the United States representative last met for negotiations on a nuclear agreement on February 26, less than 48 hours before the U.S. military launched the Operation Epic Fury. All right, the joint strike on Saturday unalived Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah and multiple military leaders. All right, Iran military retaliated with targeted drone strikes on Israel and Gulf states, killing or unaliving 6 U.S. service members in Kuwait. All right, the foreign minister waved along concerns that Iran could target the United States homeland, saying the country's military is focused on targeting American military bases in the Middle East. They have enough soldiers. They have enough military access. They have enough military bases and military installations. So we don't need to go beyond that, he said. All right. All right, so temperatures are rising. Temperatures are rising, y'all. Just letting you know you've been reported. Thank you. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about you. I'm going back to blocking. Okay. Bye. Thanks for reporting me, Anna. Thanks for having hate on your heart. All right. All right. Watch this. She's gonna say she reported me, but she's gonna comment again. Cause they're stupid like that. You've been reported. You've been reported. Do I even want to talk about this? Who is... nobody care about that dude, man. Ain't nobody talking about him. Okay. So we don't have much... okay. That one just came in 13 minutes ago. That one just came in. I think that's it, y'all. I think that's it. All right, y'all. It's been real, man. Thank y'all for hitting the like button, man. That's okay. I reported her for misinformation. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys, for looking out, man. Thank you, guys, for coming in today. We are done with the live. We'll update you guys later on at another time with what we find. But right now, we're just not getting enough updated information, and I don't want to keep showing videos because I'm tired. I actually need to go to sleep. I gotta work tonight. So, thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for being here. Have a great day, and